My name's Joe Biden. I'm running for, in this case, running for President of the United States. Look me over. If you like what you see, help out. If not, vote for the other person. I just spoke at Dartmouth on health care at the medical school, or not, I guess I wasn't actually on the campus, but people from the medical school were at the, I want to be clear. I'm not going nuts. I'm not sure whether it was a medical school or where the hell I spoke, but it was on the campus. I want to thank Rich Fitzgerald, the county executive, Allegheny County executive, for being here. And I propose, and I'm going to digress slightly. We're in a situation. The president asked me to head up a cancer moonshot.
President Biden, just to be clear, would you or would you not rejoin the TPP, yes or no?
I would not rejoin the TTP as it was initially put forward. In Guatemala, El Salvador, and to go in and say in Honduras and say, look, I know I'm called middle class, Joe. It's not meant as a compliment. It means I'm not sophisticated. And there's an area where there's an important difference between this and there's an important difference between the candidates. I'm running. The country wasn't built by Wall Street bankers, CEOs, and hedge fund managers. This guy is moving to foment hate. The price for whatever the drug costs are. Well, folks, eliminate one tax loophole out of $1.6 trillion worth, $1.4 trillion worth. Out of $1.4 billion. It's hard to even say it, it's so much. And by the way, it's cost a lot of money. It cost about $740 billion over 10 years. Every single solitary person qualified in community college, increasing the number of 6 to 9 million people. If you like your employer-based policy, you can keep that policy. If you agree with me, go to Joe 30330 and help me in this fight. If you want to be part of this campaign, pick up your phones. Pick up your phone. Now, send a text to the word United to the number 30330. 30330 or 303330. Or VOO. Wait. You got it. It's on the back there. Now he's feeling the pressure of an economy that's teetering on a recession. To say that LGBTQ people have no civil rights. And immediately changed the law in the state of Delaware protecting transgender people. I took on Putin in terms of in terms of what was going on in Ukraine. My long friend, time friend, and she's a friend. She's been my friend in and out of public life. It will cost 1/30. 1/30. Costs a lot of money. Almost $740 billion is what I want to do. Not $30 trillion. Not $30 trillion. Among many qualified people, I'm the best qualified person for this job. And the reason is not just to help people who have or in fact are like to get Alzheimer's. Because think of what's been adopted. Milton Friedman's notion that the only obligation. That all changed for the Republican friends in the late 80s when they adopted Milton Friedman's notion that the only obligation. We find ourselves in a position where you're in a circumstance where we've adopted Milton Friedman's notion of conservative economists. Now, if in fact you are in a position, what was the case, you worked for Jimmy? That's why we're so special. It took courage. It took resilience. They know who we are. We have to let them know who we are. We can do it, and it's going to take billions of dollars to do it, and we can afford to do it. We can't afford not to do it. Cut in half the number uninsured of the Asian American Pacific Islander community. Cut in half. Don't worry, I'm so serious. Children, I love to hear them. President Trump and the demagogues around the world. Donald Trump is re-elected. So people are figuring out there's not a damn thing we can do. We can't really set our mind. The single most stressed I was asked to speak to the American Psychiatric Association, to go over to the University of London and speak to the World Psychiatric Association. It's interesting. I just spoke to the International Society of Psychiatric
This is not a Republican talking point. The Republicans are trying to kill Obamacare.
Union workers, the UAW took incredible cuts in their future. We have $1.6 trillion worth of loopholes in the law.
But I never thought that I'd see what I saw at Charlotte. You know, I came home from law school. Avoid having an excuse to walk by the deal and say, no, I'm not going to be real. I got something to do. I got to go do boom, boom, boom.
If we just were to reinstitute the cafe standards.
And I think Secretary, excuse me, I wasn't press going to say I'm downgrading by calling him Senator Booker. The fact is that the bills that the future president here, that the senator's talking about, I was the one that suggested to the president, President Obama, I don't want to confuse presidents here. Look, we provide a Medicare option. That's exactly what Brock and I talked about in the beginning.
Get it through, though.
So I couldn't tell anybody but Barack. He's one of my closest friends. Invaded another country and annexed a significant portion of it called Crimea.
Right.
He's saying that it was my boss, it was his fault. I got assault weapons banned for 10 years. It had to be reauthorized because of hanging chads in Florida. The last president said, no, I'm not going to reauthorize it. We need to work again with Canada and Mexico as neighbors, not as adversaries. Saks or Benettons or Nike or whatever in the market, in their places where the malls.
Donald Trump does pose an excellent threat to this. It's not hypothetical.
We could put every one of them in school, cutting in half the cost of a four-year education. Why they do that?
I ran the what they call the moonshot, dealing with cancer, and something after that set up the Biden Cancer Initiative. And here's the point:
the conservative columnist, and they say, "You take my shotgun." I said, "I have three. I now have five because my son died, and I have three of his. I have 5 shotguns." So have a mechanism to control drug prices. You know, it's not. We're no longer using chemical-based things. All this thing is really with cancers and other issues relating to the immune system or biooriented.
And by the way, the idea that NATO,
The only people who entitled to rewards are stockholders.
Ladies and gentlemen, he is deliberately and completely ignoring the legitimate authority of Congress, and he's doing what he does with the complicity.
Stop trying to keep your workers organized.
About all these breakthroughs we have with the whole immune system. I want you to know, if you look at PolitiFacts,
We're no longer the wealthiest middle class in the world.
it means investing much more in medical research to conquer devastating diseases like cancer and addiction and Alzheimer's.
The opportunities are amazing. We are in a position to be able to lead the world like we've never been able to do it before.
I mean, they're not bad votes, folks. But guess what? I found that the Secretary, we sat together in many meetings.
There's things that are worth dealing with China.
What presidents say matter. We also know we need teachers. My wife is a full-time teacher, taught all during being vice president.
High-quality options, the public option will be available in my plan. We'll make sure it's not quality. We'll make sure it's only affordable. Quality is affordable. Not the end in themselves. Mischaracterizes my position across the board.
Not those of us running for president alone. Not just activists like you.
You know how many tax loopholes there are in the code now? $1,640 billion. Eliminate one. How can a person legally be maintained?
We choose truth over facts.
You ever heard a president of the United States talk about law enforcement like he does today? I oversaw as the chairman of the Judiciary Committee a long time the FBI. Look what he's
talks about. But we lead by the example of our power, not just the power, not just the example of power, but the example. We're out there, and it's what we say. By strengthening. We have to eliminate the funding gap that exists between minority white and majority white and non-white districts.
The fact of the matter is, I'm awfully sophisticated about why, how, and who built this country. Let me say this simply and clearly.
They're not national assets. Wall Street bankers, CEOs, hedge fund managers, no matter how good and decent they are, they're not the ones who built this country.
That triumph of democracy and liberalism over fascism and autocracy.
When I got out of school, when Bobby Kennedy and Dr. King had been assassinated in the 70s, late 70s, when I got engaged. I'm going to publicly apologize for not being able to make it. We don't even love them. That's who we are. No other nation was founded the way we are. We hold these truths self-evident, that all men and women are created equal, endowed by their creator. No nation has ever been founded on that principle. That was a time in the late 60s, the early 60s and 60s where it was drop out, go to Haight-Ashbury.
We can do this by making sure that we're in a position that we, in fact, allow people. Time's up. I agree that everybody, once they, in fact, they should. Anyway, my time's up. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Vice President.
But here's the deal, folks. Well, I think it shouldn't matter where your race. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Great notes. Thank you so much, Joe Biden. Very cool. Thank you. Thank you for the 1400. We're live and we're back, folks. How are you all doing? Sorry I'm late. As I said on Twitter, I was too busy doing your freaking mom.
Cops.
Getting close to a year, ye.
Live free or cry. Thank you for the tier 3. 11 months. Live free or cry. Thank you for the tier 3. Live free or cry. Thank you for the tier 3. We love to see it, folks. Did anyone else subscribe? I don't think so. I have a new podcast episode that I worked a decent amount on. Yeah, I think the new Patreon episode is probably my best podcast app. I added the background music. Oh, the Streamlabs thing. How do you change Streamlabs commands? Because it's Liv Agar now instead of Liv Posting. It's just like my pen name or whatever. It's short and unique or whatever. And then here's the podcast. You should go listen to it. It's available on like Spotify and all that shit. And the Patreon is $2 a month for all the episodes. So it's, it's very cheap, folks.
Bad cops.
Very cheap.
Don't
We love
mind
to
me,
see
chat.
it.
Just doing my monthly praxis posting vote.
So true, Zach Qwerty. Thank you for the 8 months. Anyways, how are you all doing? We're finally back. I guess nothing too crazy has happened. I mean, we're sort of in the historical period in which decades happen, every week, but like still nothing happens. It's weird. It's like Liv is dating No More Puff. So true. So true. It's exactly the same. Who's my like Notorious B.I.G. then? That I just like do like stupid ad libs on and add nothing productive to. The name Agar, I mean, it's just like it's short and you can think about it. It's not that deep.
Can I get a feels birthday man in the chat?
Maya, thank you for the tier 2. Happy birthday. Maya, thank you for the tier 2. We love to see it, folks. Everyone wish Maya moderator happy birthday. liveagar.io. Yeah, so true. Can I call you Live Deleting? You can always call me that. I'll always do that. Yeah, there's one thing I saw here. The My Pillow guy shit. Let me where is it? This is strange. My Pillow USA CEO accidentally showed some of his notes. What do they say? Is now an actual national security, getting the evidence of all the election and all the information regarding people he knows who are already secured. He's an attorney with cyber. Act now as a result of the assault. Martial law if necessary upon first hints of any. So he's calling for martial law? The My Pillow guy is like foreign interference in the election. Make sure this is China/Iran. Well, cool. That's great. I guess this is the portion of. Is that about Rudy? The beer gut putsch, so true. I guess this is the small portion of the capitalist class, because it's not as if this is Coca-Cola doing this. This is a fucking pillow company, right? He sells pillows, right? It's My Pillow, right? Like My Pillow. It's a pillow manufacturing company. So yeah, like you see Hitler had like the at least ostensible support of like German industrialists. And what does Trump have? He's got a guy who fucking sells pillows. It's a little different. But yeah, he clearly has some member of the sort of mind pillow. Yeah, yeah. Hitler had Krupp. Yes, Hitler had Krupp and Trump has My Pillow. You can see how it's tragedy and farce or whatever. I'm still developing that idea more of like I called it this. This is a newest premium episode, $2 a month. On Patreon. Again, I'm gonna continue to plug it constantly because this is the best place to plug it. It's $2 a month, folks. The idea of super fascism in relation to this, which makes it sound like it's scarier, but it's actually more pathetic. Like it's more absurd and even less useful in terms of overthrowing
Liv, you've
the
inspired me to
government.
read Anti-Oedipus with no background knowledge. All I can say is that wow, these guys love shitting and fucking.
So
I love
true.
Philosophy.
Blue Chairman, thank you for the 8 months. That's true. They do love shitting and fucking. Or at least the libido does. It loves it, folks. So true. It's a part of super capitalism. I mean, you could say hyperfascism, but I think it's funnier to connect it to Evola, just to make fun of Evola. If you don't know the story of Evola, he was on. He's this really weird like fascist, essentially. I mean, yeah. Well, technically. So look, during his trial in 1951, he was like prominent in the sort of interwar period in Italy. Evola denied being a fascist and instead referred to himself as a super fascista. Concerning this statement, historian Elizabeth, it is unclear whether this meant that Evola was placing himself above or beyond fascism. My interpretation is that he basically and during his trial he defended himself by calling himself a super fascist, and he got off. He won his trial. Because he was in some ways literally he did publish things that were at least semi-critical of like Mussolini, meaning that like he was like no, these guys aren't fucking fascist enough. The irony is, of course, that actual super fascism, he beat the case by saying he was a super fascist. The irony is that super fascism isn't any weird esoteric like spiritual movement. It's like it's Trump. How many hours of live stream did you watch? Yeah, a couple of you are at 500, which is crazy. I think, was that supposed to be 250? I mean, I don't get it. I don't get why you want to watch me that much, but we love to see it. Thank you so much. Morg Vanny, thank you for 1,000 bits.
Live.
So true. 3 times. Yeah, so it's like in actuality what super fascism is people wanting a ruler so much desiring it so much that they make up this sort of competent competent force that's going to come in, grab them by the hands and lead them towards domination and repression that doesn't even exist because Trump is a fucking idiot. You see this with QAnon where they're like, oh, he's secretly in this grand conspiracy to take down the government. Like, he may appear like a fucking idiot, and he may not say that he's about to overthrow the government, but he is. He's doing it. And it's absurd, right? So that's what, like, this sort of super fascist thing is. Oh yeah, Ollie has a funny one. This is I know he talks about this, right?
Although, when he was tried in 1951, he said, "I'm not a fascist. I'm a super fascist." "You're not dealing with an ordinary fascist anymore, Kakarot. I have realized the legend." But the world actually got a tiny bit better again.
Yeah, it's a good bit. It's very funny. So in the same sense as, like, you know, you cut off the best bit. Oh, let me see.
Although
capable of any elan beyond herself, utterly inadequate as
We
far
can
as
look at a bit of.
taking women away. According to Evola, so-called feminism, direct quote, is really taking women away from what'll make them happy. It's turning all the women into men, and all the dudes are becoming femoids. It's
Evola was the original
the
MRA.
degeneracy of the male and female types, and it's happening because men aren't virile enough, and it's a threat to the West.
hence the types of the woman garçon and the shallow and vain woman, incapable of any elan beyond herself, utterly inadequate as far as sensuality and sinfulness are
I love getting
concerned,
Contra to
because
read
to the
this.
modern woman, the possibilities of physical love are often not as interesting as the narcissistic cult of her body, or as being seen with as many or as few clothes as possible. Also, harem anime is the ideal model of Western femininity. Tenchi Muyo was red-pilled as fuck.
Evola predicts that if this goes on, relationships and gender norms as he knows them in 1934 are doomed. And in fairness, he was right about that. It just turned out that was rad. The West really did decline after 1934.
I mean, there's a certain element of Evola in which he has this sort of lucid understanding of what, like, modernity has done, and even what, like, capitalism has done, where it's like, that's why he wants to go back to, like, this, like, serf-based feudal society.
But it wasn't degeneracy or a lack of racial purity that killed so many people and destroyed Europe.
It was Evola.
It was people like Evola.
Anyways, yeah, I want to call it super fascism because that's making fun of Evola, because the actual realization of super fascism is people making up this idea that Trump is gonna this super competent right wing leader and not a fucking idiot who likes clout. Anyways, latest Don Jr. Oh no, Don, you can tell that Don is gonna, like, he's already not doing well, and he's never done well, but you can tell, like, in the next couple months, he's gonna melt.
That
All right,
right now is that the opening of the 117th Congress was followed by a prayer. The prayer ended with "Amen," as most prayers would, and
he's still on the a woman
a
shit.
woman. Amen and a woman. Because apparently just have...
Which I have now realized that, like, they weren't actually doing that as, like, a let's be inclusive to women thing. It was a joke.
Having the three letters MEN for men somewhere in a word means that we need to discuss the opposite gender. I mean, are you kidding me,
He's still
folks?
on this.
There's literally nothing gender
still on
specific
this.
about the word amen. It means so be it. It's a Latin root term, definitive. There's nothing
Yeah, he's not doing
gender
well.
about it. There's nothing as it relates to politically correctness about it. It's literally the way we've ended prayers for thousands of years, and it has nothing to do with men or
his
women.
watermark is so
but
cool.
we now
Don
have
Jr.
a Congress that has to include.
Yeah, he is not doing well. He's really having a tough time. It's Hebrew, yeah, it's not Latin. Anyways. Yeah, poor Don. You know, there's a certain extent into which, like, even what he has, he doesn't deserve, and he's an awful human being, which is absolutely correct. But also, you know, I'm sure his life is miserable, and I'm sure it's gonna get way worse now. I'm sure he is not a happy individual. Yeah, it's you know, he's going to jail. Do you think so? What has Don done specifically? Oh yeah. Also, there's a new stimulus package or whatever, but they're only giving $1,400 checks, right? And so the thing is like, oh, it's 600 plus 1,400 is 2,000. Which is, you know, you saw like the ads for Warnock in Georgia where it's like, vote for Warnock and you'll get $2,000 checks. And it's like, I wonder why no one fucking trusts the Democratic Party. I wonder why. Like, why do you think people don't actually believe anything they fucking say? Anyways, I had the bit that Joe Biden didn't agree for $2,000 checks because he still thinks that money has the same buying power that it did in 1970. It's like, listen, come on, man. $1,400, what you could buy a whole house with that. Come on, man. $15 an hour. Come on, you know how much money is that? You know that could get 5 people through college with that money. Come on, man. We don't need $15 an hour.
A lot of things to get to today. We are, of course, awaiting more information.
Which is a joke, but honestly, I mean, I think this is more the case with like Dianne Feinstein. I wonder how much she actually thinks money is worth. Like her impression of that.
Pretty impression that you can do.
What's this?
And so, what's a celebrity impression that you can do?
And so, when we are born, we enter into a constant state of struggle against power. Master is not friend of slave, and parent is not friend of child, and so on and so on. And so I think that this relates to my idea that Toy Story is symbolic of satanic worship because...
What's a celebrity impression?
Yeah, that's a very good impression. That's a very...
As to when the Senate
top-notch
will
shit.
take up the impeachment hearings, but presumably now it is clear that it is probably going to be under the leadership of Chuck Schumer as opposed to Mitch McConnell. There has been a lot of test ballooning, a lot of a sense of, you know, where will we get if we're where will we be in the context of the Republican Party if we were actually to, in some way, say, hey, maybe we should discourage people from armed attacks on our lawmakers and threats to hang them. That might have a disadvantaging effect on our democracy and the way that things function, regardless of what our politics are.
You're doing Minecraft nights? Oh, awesome. You should. I have a Minecraft server, which I still fuck. I need to take over the thing for that. I'll do that later today. There is a server, livecrafting.club. If you want to play in it, you need to go onto the Discord to get permission to build stuff, but it's great, and you should join it. Did I spell Discord wrong? No,
GR in that moment. I mean, I know there
Hot
is.
take, Sam.
Yeah, I'm really going out on a.
If fascism is desiring its own repression, what is communism? I mean, I guess it's a rhizomatic political organization or political formation or social formation in which desire is not repressed or does not experience any repression.
A limb there. But apparently it is, something of concern to Republican lawmakers. Now, I'm not sure. First off, if I was to believe, there's a couple of different sort of narratives that we're starting to see now as some form of justification for the way that the Republican lawmakers are acting or the way that this mob did. But if I'm a Republican lawmaker who's genuinely afraid for my physical well-being, if I vote for impeachment, it seems to me I would also be a little bit concerned of my physical well-being if I do not in some way say we should not be inciting people to commit this type of violence. The other take I'm hearing is we need to have more understanding for why people decided to take bats, take sticks, take fire extinguisher, maybe beat someone to death, smash up things in the Capitol building.
It's interesting.
Build a gallows.
Yeah, we already know the reason. We already do understand why they were driven to this, and that's the exact reason we draw the conclusion that justice needs to be served for the people that incited this. We already have that understanding. So imagine if, again, these were Muslim people. I know this is a trite point, but I think it's an important one. This would be called allowing the terrorists to win. Oh, you're gonna back down just because you want healing or you want this to be over? That would be weakness as defined by the Republican Party, but they're white right-wingers, so it doesn't matter.
Indeed. Well, I think Sito has been writing quite a bit about these type of questions, and we will be talking to him in a moment. In the meantime, here is Joe Biden summarizing some of the top line items in this $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill. And this is a pretty decent bill.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very lib position. We just need more punishment and then it'll stop. I sort of articulated this in the pod episode, the premium one, which I do think is
all cops are bad cops.
Better than the free one. So you should give me $2 a month. I'm gonna keep plugging it. Look, this is the best place for me to plug it in terms of people clicking it. Sahar here, thank you for the 11 months. Which is to say that there's this sort of liberal account of fascism articulated by. Oh, sorry, it's not Liv posting. It's Liv Agar. I did that wrong. I just changed it. All right. How do I change the Streamlabs link? I don't know how to do that. I think the mods you guys make those. How do I? Falca, thank you for the Jeff Bezos bucks. It's Liv Agar on Patreon. AGAR, like the dish or whatever. There's this liberal account of fascism in which it's just a game of whack-a-mole, in which there are, the moles pop up and then you whack them, and the job of anti-fascism is not to question the inner machinations of the whack-a-mole machine. Why are there moles popping up in which we must whack? But simply to whack the moles. And the response to that, in a certain sense, you can easily see fits into this sort of protecting the liberal democratic apparatus and state. The ultimate irony, of course, being that what you're doing there is just making it so that on-duty cops fight off-duty cops. That's the relationship you see there. You can see how this is not a meaningful solution to the problem, that it's a far deeper structure. And you need to question the deeper structure. The CIA needs your support. Please help the CIA. Patreon.com/LiveAgar. So true, Chelsea. Thank you. Which is like, what is the inherent structure of that, and how does a system of punishment not actually fix that, but actually relates to the system. Relates to the system of repression that causes this in the first place. Lord Filthy, thank you for the year. So essentially, the solution. It's if only.
The point of mod
Oh,
is
thank
the
you,
horny
everybody.
bonk, not to ask the question, why are there hornies? We must.
So true, ENTP Joker. Thank you for the 5 months. Oh shit, it's a hype train. Okay. We'll do that. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. If you would like to contribute, it's $5 a month. Although I think it's like 20% off now, isn't it? So it's great. 27 tier 1 emotes. We love to see it. Live Free or Cry, thank you for the 5 gift subs. GrizzCon, thank you for the 5 gift subs. Oh shit, it was at the same time. Thank you so much, both of you. The CIA needs your support. That's good, that's funny. Thank you. But yeah, so the response essentially is like, if only there was some way of resisting fascism that didn't embolden the liberal capitalist state and, you know, the security apparatus. If only there was some method, maybe call it anti-fascism, that would help build left-wing movements while simultaneously resisting.
Live.
Leon Grotsky, thank you for the 3 gift subs. Tony Jonas, thank you for 300 bits. Zach Cordy, thank you for the gift sub. Thank you, everybody. I don't think I missed anybody. Which is, you know, it's also to say, like, I'm not mad that people are telling the FBI on these, like, right-wing people. That's funny and cool. And doesn't really embolden the security apparatus. Insofar as it's like they already have the same powers. You're just giving them extra, very specific information. The problem is the like, oh well, we need to give them more powers in the abstract. That's where you start to get, you know. Tony Jones, thank you for 100 bits. There's a multitude of reasons why just like, well, we need to put them all in prisons is actually like, you know, especially in like a real politic, like practical sense. I'm not saying it's necessarily bad. I guess it's better than the alternative, especially given that structural change is so far away. But it is not going to solve the problem. It's a band-aid solution. So hi here, thank you for the 2,000 bits. We love to see it, folks. Is the new title any good? Wait, what is the title? It's the official home of the... Yeah, that's good. That's funny. I don't know, am I allowed to claim that ironically? Is that against the terms of service? I'm impersonating a... Anyway, yeah, so that's the nuance or whatever. Oh, I saw that the Alex Jones thing about Meghan McCain. Yeah. Unofficial, there we go. Thank you, May. Level 3 folks, if you would like to contribute. Post a video of yourself looking totally normal at Tim Hortons and say it's a bodega. That's very funny, Chelsea. That's good. Has anyone done that yet? That's really good. In Canada, we like to call these bodegas. And Pilpearl, thank you for the 200 bits. Yeah, that's very good. Is it, wait, Andrew Yang is running for mayor somewhere or something? What's happened with him? I mean, you know, it's like a... Honey Jones, thank you for 100 bits. Mayor of New York City? I mean... Sure, why not? Why not? You know, the politics is gonna turn into, like, influencers. That's inevitably gonna happen. The fact that I mean, the president is an influencer. And boy, thank you for 100 bits. Skrilla Gorilla, thank you for 100 bits. Jake Paul, mayor of LA? Yeah, absolutely. Jake Paul got in a very controversial position recently in collaborating with ICE. And that's our future. I'm saying that as a joke, but that's also our future. Honey Joners, thank you for the 300 bits. Not level 4, 2% away. Undead Spartan, thank you for the tier 1. Honey Joners, thank you for 100 bits. We love to see it. Thank you, level 4. Booyah Dean, thank you for 300 bits. Oh yeah, isn't right Andrew Yang is like anti-circumcision? It's such a bizarre, because it's like, you know, I can't even explain why you would like Kafka, thank you for the 500 bits. Oh, also, Baked Alaska is going to jail. Which again, like, you know, I'm a prison abolitionist, but that's funny. Warrant issued for arrest. Far-right streamer Baked Alaska after violating release conditions failed to show in court. I'm allowed to think that's funny, even if I'm a prison abolitionist.
Do we like dick? Yes.
Bogslop, thank you for the gift sub. He's an informant. There was a theory about that, because you know they were openly using his live stream to identify people. They're like FBI, but there was a any news on Fuentes? Fuentes didn't actually go in the building, or at least he's claiming he didn't. And I don't think there's any evidence he did, so I think he's off the hook. You look at his pinned tweet on Twitter, which I'm assuming I'm allowed to look at like photos of Nick Fuentes even though he's banned. The rules on that are so weird on Twitch, where you can't show anyone who's banned, even when you're like, oh, did he get banned on Twitter? Oh, maybe he did. I can't find him. Make sure Fuentes. No, here he is. Even if you're like showing a video to say someone is bad, you can't restream their content. Oh, okay. Even if you're showing it to like look at how bad this person is. Many journalists are claiming that I was photographed in Pelosi's office. This is fake. So this is him, and then he's claiming that isn't him. It's so funny also that they all type like Trump now. Like yeah, owning the libs by having like a 4th grade level writing capacity on purpose. Anyways. Yeah, so I think Fuentes is fine. Baked Alaska is not in a good spot, I think. Yes, Fuentes got like $200,000 through this anonymous Bitcoin thing, like a month before the raid or whatever, the coup, the protest. By some random French source, some source in France. I don't think we know, like no one knows how or why or what it is. Yeah, very weird. The server was French. Oh, okay. So they just did it extra anonymously. Yeah, I'm sure it was someone maybe connected, maybe some corporate interest or something connected to Trump, who like wanted to embolden sort of the right-wing ideologues. Yeah, maybe Bannon, yeah. That's probably what it was. I think they were investigating it as related to the thing. 20 seconds left for the hype train, and we'll continue with everything. Thank you, everyone who subscribed and bits and gift subs. Much appreciated. We love the lizard folks, don't we? Thank you.
The question is where is it going to end up in? Let's hear this, and then we'll address some of the questions about it.
So yeah, I think I firmly disagree with this stance.
Calling this
I don't think it's structural enough.
would be called allowing the terrorists to win. Oh, you're gonna back down just because you want healing, or you want this to be over?
Like I will say, with like a prison abolitionist stance, the places in which it matters the most are the questions that are most difficult to answer, or most complicated, or seemingly less popular. And this is absolutely one of those cases. And this is less about what people deserve and a moral argument, because I'm not it's sort of beside the point, and more about the root structural causes of the prison and what the prison is predicated upon, and what social phenomena the prison produces. That emboldening it doesn't actually... The root structural problem is the same. The whack-a-mole machine functions even potentially faster. There are more moles that pop up that you must whack. It doesn't make it go slower or make it less powerful.
Would be weakness as defined by the Republican Party, but they're white right-wingers, so it doesn't matter.
Indeed. Well, I think Osito has been writing quite a bit about these type of questions, and we will be talking to him in a moment. In the meantime, here is
yeah, you need to... It's important to not mistake pragmatism for capitalist realism. That's a good way of putting it. Like, the point in which this sort of... The pragmatic position isn't actually pragmatism and actually works to reinforce the capitalist state form.
10 months of trying to understand philosophy with Liv Vod.
So true. Thank you, Literature Class, for the 10 months. Thank you so much. Although, I guess you can read Deleuze in the original form, and I can't. So you have a one-up on me.
Summarizing some of the top-line items in this $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill. And this is a pretty decent bill. The question is where is it going to end up in? Let's hear this, and then we'll address some of the questions about it.
And we will be responsible with taxpayers' dollars, ensuring accountability that reduces waste and fraud and abuse like we did in the Recovery Act that I administered in our administration. Direct cash payments, extended unemployment insurance, rent relief, food assistance, keeping essential frontline workers on the job, aid to small businesses. These are the key elements to the American Rescue Plan that would lift 12 million Americans out of poverty and cut child poverty in half. That's 5 million children lifted out of poverty if we move. Our plan will reduce poverty in the Black community by 1/3, reduce poverty in the Hispanic community by almost 40%.
Oh yeah, they have some like children's subsidies.
It includes much more, like an increase in the minimum wage.
To minimize child poverty.
$15 an hour. People tell me that's going to be hard to pass. Florida just passed it. As divided as that state is, they just passed it. The rest of the country is ready to move as well. It should be a national minimum wage of $15 an hour. No one working 40 hours a week should live below the poverty line. That's what it means. If you work
Let's see if you can do
for
it.
less than $15 an hour, work 40 hours a week, you're living in poverty. It includes access to affordable child care that will enable parents, particularly women, to get back to work. I look forward to working with members of Congress of both parties to move quickly to get the American Rescue Plan to the American people. And then we can move with equal urgency and bipartisanship to my Build Back Better recovery plan
Both parties.
that I will call for next month to generate even more economic growth.
We will get more into the details of this plan over the course of the next week or two. One of the top line, I guess, controversies, at least on the left, is that he had said $2,000. In fact, what is in the bill is the difference between the first bill that was passed at the end of this last congressional session, $600, and $1,400. I mean, I understand the point, and I think from a rhetorical standpoint, been a lot better sell to just continue on with 2,000. You had already done that. With that said, one thing that is an expansion that was not clear in the first round of COVID relief, or I should say the last one, was that there are about almost 14 million adult dependents, half of whom are students. 20 some odd percent are folks with disabilities. Not sure what makes up the other 25%. I think it's, a much smaller cohorts of people, but those people were not eligible for the $600 payments. And my understanding is now they are going to be eligible for at least $1,400 of those payments. You're talking 13.5 million people. That's, another $200 billion. I think that more or less is going out the door. And
that's huge.
That's helpful. I can see the point.
So essentially,
points on the 2,000, but there's a lot of enhancement to unemployment insurance, which is hugely important. These are folks who have definitively lost their means of being able to make money, and an extra $400 on top of any type of state benefits.
I mean, he's still fundamentally a
they would get is crucial, and that goes till September. It's
and also the eviction moratorium extends till September too.
The eviction moratorium through September. I believe there's significant rental support in terms of money. We got to dig through more of this, and we will talk more about it next week. But the real question is going to be, ultimately, is how this thing gets passed. Because how this thing gets passed is going to dictate how much of what is laid out by Joe Biden is there at the end of this process. And that's going to be crucial. I find it very hard to believe that you're going to get, there's a couple of different theories, but I find it very hard to believe that you're going to get over 15 senators, I think, Republican senators. Maybe I think we're up at, or even 10 for that matter, to pass this bill. But
the question, they might not even get every Democrat to pass the fucking bill.
Which is what you're going to need, assuming you hold all the Democrats. However, there are some people who are suggesting that this is basically Biden's way to find out what Republican senators are amenable to certain aspects of this bill, and then
guess how many do you guys think are going to be amenable?
That bill out as a separate bill.
Right.
Pass that, and then take what's left over and run that through reconciliation.
Which is why Chuck Schumer's apparently had pushed Biden to go a little bit bigger. You see the results of this there. The point about the $2,000 checks is I'm more critical of Biden than maybe you are here, because nobody knows the semantics of, you got the $600 and we're going to make up the difference with $1,400. He made a point to say $2,000 checks. That paints Democrats into a corner, and people may not realize that he was kind of weaseling his way around that in the initial in the Georgia race. So I think it could hurt Democrats at least marginally.
Yep, I mean, I guess we'll see. We'll see how close the bill gets to passing, and which Republicans would want any element of it. I guess one of the reasons they wanted less for the checks is because they didn't want to push it up to 2 billion or 2 trillion. 1.9 sounds better. Nevertheless, Cheney, maybe Romney. Yeah, I mean, it's not enough. Which there's a couple things you can say about that. Firstly, how just awful the American system is. It's built so that there can't be things that happen to it. essentially. Like that things cannot change. It's extremely anti-reformist reformist structure, especially if the two parties don't agree on anything, which it also creates a structure in which there are two parties that don't agree on anything. Yeah, they could abolish the filibuster. Well, I mean, there are fucking Democrats that don't want to do that, right? What's the oldest? Is she in the Senate? What's her name? Feinstein is, for instance, not for abolishing the filibuster. She's like, oh, it's a great. That's my old woman voice. She's like, it's a great thing, the filibuster. It's a part of our tradition. You know, like, man, she's not a fan. Of course, yeah. Bernie is definitely not pro filibuster. There's no way. It's an absurd part of the system. Anyways, bad news, folks. Let's watch this. There's more. The Beau of the Fifth Column is an interesting person. Someone describes him as like a Kokona whisperer.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Beau again. So today, we're going to talk about training, folk heroes, the media, the Capitol, and we're probably going to listen to some drips and bangs on the roof because it just stopped raining. Stick with me on this because it's going to seem odd in the beginning, but there is a pretty big point here. I was inside reading article after article after article, and they all told me how highly trained this crew at the Capitol was. The evidence they're using to support this conclusion is that
does this video agree with me?
And they were using hand signals.
I love stumbling upon a video
that's a basic skill. That's not highly trained. And two, there was a group that got into a stack. Okay, I'll give you that. That typically is indicative of a high speed team getting into a stack and doing it properly. Yeah. If you don't know what a stack is, it's where you take your hand and put it on the shoulder of the person in front of you. They do the same thing. The person behind you does it.
I mean, that's not... Look...
Let's everybody know where everybody is.
I guess I don't...
It does appear that somebody explained that to this crew. Maybe even explained the squeezes and everything. But that crew, they've never done it. Not for real. And they've never trained because they used this hand. And unless you're telling me all of those guys that use their right hand to grab the person in front of them are left-handed, they're doing it wrong.
I love being correct.
You use your non-firing hand to grab the person in front of you because you still have to maintain control of your weapon. Doesn't seem like a big thing, right?
This isn't a stolen valor video. This is him saying that, like, the people who are like, they were highly trained assault teams attempting to, like, is, like, ridiculous.
Seems like a minor oversight by the media, not being able to pick that out.
Maybe. I don't know.
It
Maybe
is
that's
a big
not...
thing.
Okay, it is.
Those guys were play acting. They were pretending. What they did was the equivalent of holding hands while crossing the street. They are not high speed. They are not highly trained. They are not operators. I would suggest that putting out the image that they are.
Which, again, like, you fucking tactical idiot LARPers can still kill people. That's important to emphasize. Especially if they have access to ammunition and weapons. You can still kill someone. That's definitely, you know, it's still a risk. They were not like a trained team with a
plan.
Might
elevate them to folk hero status. This idea that America's elite, the highly trained, they're out there in opposition.
Should play Morrowind? You know what I want to play? More Oblivion, which is Morrowind but ported onto the Oblivion engine.
Man, that might make people interested in their cause. Might make them want to learn more about them. Might make them want to follow them. Might make their movement grow. And while we're on this topic, I'm going to suggest that if you have to talk about the groups or the individuals, you don't need to interview them and put them on air. You don't need to pull a bunch of quotes from them. We've talked about it on this channel time and time again. These types of campaigns are PR campaigns with violence. They're not hoping to achieve a military victory. They are hoping to shift public opinion. And when you put them on air, you give them a commercial in which to do that.
Am I right or left-handed? I will not disclose that information for the sake of when I get within a tactical team, a situation with my team, you will not know whether I am incompetent or whether I'm actually...
Your ratings are not worth ripping the country apart. That's how we got in this mess to begin with.
Patriot Act 2 Arrest the Boogaloo is really funny.
Allowing people to say stuff and putting it out there even though the media knows it's not accurate. America's elite is not in opposition. Casting that image is bad. As far as we know, there were 2 really well-trained people there. It doesn't appear that either one of them took a trainer's course. 2 out of that entire crowd. There are tens of thousands of people in this country that have that level of training. They weren't there. They were not there. Casting the image that they were will make their movement grow. If the media does not stop this, and stop it soon, that folk hero A-team image, that's going to make people interested. It's going to cause that movement to grow. Aside from it...
Zip tie guy brought his mom? No fucking way. Can you link me to something with... Can you link me something for that? Wait, I know that this is not going to be the case, but you know that photo of that decrepitly old lady at the Capitol that everyone compares to like the SpongeBob photo?
Being bad for the country.
I'd like to believe that that was his mom.
Factually inaccurate, even though they were unarmed. If they had ever trained, muscle memory would have made them use their left hand to do that. They were pretending. They were pretending. Don't make them out to be heroes. And that's the image that is coming across. That there's this group of America's elite that is in opposition. That's
a very good point, because it does encourage this sort of absurd 3%er shit. That's an interesting point. If I'm understanding his position correctly, that treating it as if it is an imminent threat of like there are tactical teams all around the country ready to overthrow will actually inspire people to join them. That'll actually make it worse.
Probably really bad for the country. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.
That's a good, yeah. Zip tie guy's mom says they're the real heroes. The mom of the man named the zip tie guy. So I was right from a couple days ago when people were like, he had the zip cuffs, what do you mean he wasn't prepared? And then I said, any fucking idiot can buy zip cuffs. I was right then. To a certain extent, a lot of this doesn't matter because, like, within the realm of the world, there was a possibility where I could have been wrong. It's not like as we watched the non-compete video, I think that was 2 days ago, about things that are necessary and things that are contingent. Like, a lot of that is contingent, sort of a contingent fog, as opposed to like a necessary characteristic of the system and the social movements. But it's at least, for my analysis, the more likely position. What was I gonna open? Oh, here's the, okay, we can look at that. I have this open. If Liv posting wore pants, would she wear them like this? Or like this? That's very funny. That's good. That's funny. You got me.
As the House of Representatives debates impeachment, there is incredibly tight security out here on the streets of Capitol Hill. As you can see, the streets are deserted. They've been closed off in the entire area surrounding the Congress. There's also been this very tall...
Oh, also, this is... did someone link me this, or did I click on it subconsciously in my... This is Jonas Philosophy Cuck. Someone directed me to a recent Cumtown episode where Doug Lane... I'm confused here. So is Doug Lane, the dude from Zero Books, going on Cumtown? For no reason, shits on me, accuses me of ripping off his channel. Which is hilarious because I feel like Philosophy Cuck's insights are like more well put together than Zero Books. I still like Zero Books. That's so weird. Why would... That's the last person I would have expected to go on that. That's so bizarre. Which is bizarre because his videos were not even an influence on me. I aspired to make videos that aren't mind-numbingly boring. A dick with a long Rasputin beard, but I don't even have a beard, and you never talked to him or interacted with him. Imagine talking about a content creator 30 years younger than you, who you've never met or even talked to as an enemy. No, he rocks. I love Philosophy Cuck. Or I guess he doesn't want us to call him Jonas Jelka? Jika? I don't know how to pronounce that, and it's I'm definitely gonna buy his book. I'm excited for that. He's making a book on Marx and Nietzsche, which is super interesting. I like Doug Lane, but his delivery is dry. Yeah. Yeah. That's super funny. But yeah, this video is great. Let's watch more of Chica? No, it's not Chica. It's not it. How do you pronounce it? Chelka? I don't know. Whatever, it's fine. You know who it is.
All cops are
well,
bad
howdy there,
cops.
Internet people.
Oh,
It's
you're
Bo
a
again.
leftist? Name every
So
invite.
today we're going to talk about Howley
Giorno Pizza. Thank you, Mr.
in Missouri. You know, most people fully understand that objecting to the electoral votes was a political show. It wasn't going to happen. It was doomed to fail. Those who engaged in it, those who participated in it, did so solely to energize their base, solely to gain political brownie points.
Yeah,
they did it for poll numbers.
It's a spectacle. It's
And
not
it
real.
helped create an atmosphere that led to what we saw on Capitol Hill.
Oh, it's
Howley
real in the
wanted to
sense
fire
that
up
there's
his
real
base.
violence.
He
That's all
wanted
predicated on
to
bullshit.
make sure that they would be behind him. Well, as fate would have it, that's not how things turned out. He is facing calls to resign from all over Missouri.
Is Hawley actually
survey conducted by Data for Progress shows that 51% of likely voters would like him to resign.
Oh, wow.
That includes 1 out of 5 Republicans.
Wait, it would be so cool if he got if Hawley was like fucked from this. The data for it's fucking near a tandem, you know. I don't know, you know. It's a near a tandem poll, to be clear, for everyone, to know what we're dealing with here.
That's pretty steep. When 20% of your own party would like you to resign. I would point out these numbers don't reflect those who aren't going to vote for him again. These numbers reflect those who want him to step down. 1 out of 5 Republicans, 51% of likely voters. I would hope that this becomes a lesson for those in political office. You know, the best way to fire up your
Wait, Data
base.
for Progress. Am I not thinking of? No, Nira's Center for American Progress. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for slandering whoever does Data for Progress.
It's not through sensational headline grabbing. It's not through political
Someone needs to hold me accountable for making that mistake.
stunts.
I need to be held accountable.
It's not through showing.
Oh, that's Sean McKelvey. Okay, I'm sorry. Someone hold me accountable, please, please.
Your loyalty to the president. It's by delivering for him. National politics has become about national policy. The thing is...
Oh, no, it's this guy. Oh, fuck this guy. Fuck this guy. No, never mind. Right, he's the guy who's like, actually, never mind. ICE isn't that bad.
The people who are sent to D.C. are sent there to represent a specific group of people. That's how the system is supposed to work.
Never mind.
They often don't do that. They represent interests.
Who's I mistaking him for?
That,
whatever.
Well, maybe they can help him get reelected. Because they can help trick and con the...
Bon Windsor, I'm not saying that.
The simple people of Missouri.
Rebuked.
Doesn't seem like they're that easily tricked. When you go out of your way to engage in something that everybody knows is a stunt, that everybody knows is just about grabbing headlines.
Scammed.
And there's a turn of events that maybe you didn't predict. It's going to have bad outcomes politically. This is something that Democrats need to pay attention to right now. As they take the reins of power,
you don't have to time out bad quotes.
They should probably keep in mind the only thing that is going to keep them holding those reins is if they deliver for the people who were slighted, those who were othered by the current administration and his enablers. If they want to have a successful 2022 or 2024, they have to deliver. They have to do the things that Americans want them to do, that those who sent them to D.C. want them to do. A whole lot of that is undoing the damage that Trump did. But that's only part of it. We have to actually fix the problems that led to him getting into office to begin with.
There you go. Yeah, it's good.
Cannot go back to the status quo. You cannot go back to business as usual, or you are going to end up like Hallie here, with half of your constituents wanting you to step down. Anyway, it's just a thought.
No, yeah, Bo is great. I think he's sort of, I mean, he's a Kokona whisperer. So some of his arguments, I guess, are more tailored to like lib and conservative. And so in a certain context, they trade in that language, which I'm like not in. But, you know, that's still good, especially for like contacting people. Anyways, yeah. Let's look at this. What DC looks like amid lockdown. So the whole fucking... He's a Russiagator? Okay, I mean, look. They can't... He's still in that positive. I have live friends who share Bo all the time. There you go.
Representatives debates impeachment. There is incredibly tight security out here on the streets of Capitol Hill.
Which, again, this is also to say there are still people who think that Trump is going to do a fucking coup after everything. And I will have to say, at this point, I was saying in December and then late December and then early January that there's like nothing he can do. There's even more nothing he can do. There's even less of a chance now. He got confirmed there's even less of a chance. There was so little of a chance now for him to do anything. He is on his way out. regardless of how much you might have disagreed with me when I said that in November, or even before the protests or the raid, the attempted coup on the 6th, you gotta agree now, like, he's done. There's nothing.
You can see the streets are deserted. They've been closed off in the entire area surrounding the...
Seen the My Pillow guy leak? So he had a paper that said, like, should declare martial law or something. I read that. That was the relevant thing, right? That people were like talking about.
The Congress.
I sort of couldn't read it. It's
There's also
small.
been this very tall fence put up all the way around the Capitol building to try to stop a repeat of those scenes that we saw last week on Wednesday when a crowd of Trump supporters stormed into the very heart.
Haberman said Trump didn't entertain him. Yeah, it's not a surprise. Also, fuck Maggie Haberman.
Of Congress. Now, this is not...
I wonder what she's gonna do when Trump leaves, because her connection with Trump was like her thing, her like grift.
Not just for the impeachment process. This is also in the build-up to the inauguration of Joe Biden as President of the United States on the 20th of January. A state of emergency has been declared here in the District of Columbia until at least the inauguration date itself. And as you can see here, National Guard troops have been brought into the district. They're armed with assault rifles, and we could see 15 or even 20,000 of them out on the streets during the inauguration of Joe Biden as US President. And it's not just out here on Capitol Hill. Inside the Capitol building itself, there were photos that emerged on Wednesday morning local time here in Washington of National Guard troops asleep in the very corridors of power inside the Congress as they arrived to protect that building. Giles Gibson for CGTN in Washington.
Oh yeah, all of the just an insane amount of troops who have like live ammunition waiting to like defend. And you know what's something I was thinking of? You know why they're all here? Because they don't have, because of the fucking Third Amendment. That goddamn Third Amendment. They can't go to people's houses and be like, can I quarter in your house? This is government tyranny. No quartering, baby. I'm gonna become I'm gonna become someone, you know, like how people are obsessed with the First and Second Amendment. I'm gonna become someone who's obsessed with the Third Amendment.
Troops asleep.
That's right. They can't ask anyone to sleep in their house.
In the very corridors of power inside the Congress as they arrived to protect that building. Giles Gibson.
Do we like dick? Yes.
Mate, thank you for the gift sub. Yeah. It's just like anyways. So yeah, there's just no, it's on fucking lockdown. Unless of course the Third Amendment, soldiers imagining how nice it will be to nap on my sofa. That's very good. That's a good one. Liv, time to read Johanna's quote. Me, yes, queen. Can you explain this whole school bonds? Wait, what? You are very online. Can you explain the whole school bonds dog thing? I have no fucking clue what this is. I have no clue what this is. I have no clue what... I mean, the shit Glenn Greenwald has been doing is awful. I don't fucking... He was on Tucker Carlson. What was he doing recently? I don't know what happened to him. What the fuck happened to him? I don't know who this school bonds person is. I guess I'm not online enough. Clearly, which is good. I'm glad I have no fucking clue who that is. The one piece of drama I am enjoying is the zero books thing, because I have no clue. Like, of all of the people to be a guest on the podcast Cumtown, I would not have expected the dude from Zero Books, who does like video essays about Baudrillard, you know, to have gone on there and have been bad about CA School Bonds is like the original anti-Chapo person. Oh, okay. It's like Chapo derangement syndrome, where people dedicate their entire lives to like defeating a comedy podcast on Twitter. Here's the Cumtown clip. Can I play this? Like, there isn't anything bad in the clip? Not even for TOS, but just, you know. Oh, I know none of the Cum Boys are banned on Twitch. I know that's fine. It's all right. They say gay is an insult. Okay, I'll play that then. Sure, that's
something I don't talk about in public normally, but there is one channel that I actually hate. It's called Cuck Philosophy.
The one channel he hates is Jonas? Yes, content warning. Gay is used as a pejorative.
Adam, he's trashing your YouTube channel. Well, are you gonna let this stand?
Well, let's hear him out first.
He singled him out.
This guy, I don't know, some grad student with big long fucking Rasputin beard, started making
like
videos.
Asshole.
Yeah, he's a real dick, making videos about postmodernism and Marxism and stuff like that. About a year after I started doing Zero Book stuff, and the videos look remarkably similar. But here's the real thing
they do not. I'm sorry, they do not.
It's like a thorn in my side. It's like
this is what happens when you get
way
fucking
bigger
too
than us
online.
now. It's like way off the chart. Oh, the Marxism of Shrek and shit like that. So
he stole your shit. That is sorry to stop you there, but that is one of the gayest things I've ever heard.
There's the pejorative.
That is evidence.
I don't
enough
understand.
That all of the
Zero Books is not in a position to be making fun of people about that shit. He's not in a position. Let's like. You were making videos. Or is this? No, this is Ben Burgess. Okay, I won't make fun of Ben. Let me see. What's a dumb one to own him? It's as dumb. He's doing the thing that like he's making fun of people by doing the same shit that they did. But the same shit that he does. Anyways. That is, I don't talk about that to participate in it. It's just the most bizarre piece of drama I've ever heard in my life. So I was deeply curious about it because I just figured it out. Anyways, let's watch. Has there been a new Cuck Philosophy video? What is the... Oh, I guess 3 years ago he did the Shrek a Marxist analysis. Yeah. But I think that was a bit, was it not? Anyways. No, I think his videos are good. Anyways, what's this? Oh, okay, this is... I can't remember who the fuck is this again. Why do I remember? He's like he's an indie artist. Oh, okay. There's an Eric Andre thing where he's like, he calls him Ariel Stink.
So you're an artist. Artists do transgressive things. You did the most transgressive thing. You came out as a public Trump supporter, and then you went to a Trump rally.
All
what
cops
happened
are
next?
bad cops.
Ain't
I
no
went to the
war
White
like
House
a class war, cause a class
to
war
see our
is
president
mandatory.
and
So
went to the
true,
hotel,
Shara. Thank you for the
took a
4
nap.
months.
End of story.
When did you find out that your career had been destroyed?
Well, about 2 days later.
I found out the last album I dropped. No, everyone was like, no one wants to hear that shit.
By that point,
I don't know. I've never listened to
my
it.
label had written me already, sort of to inform me that they were getting a lot of heat and a lot of backlash for supporting me, and they reassured me that they were not going to drop me.
They always reassure you first, don't they?
And and I was just like, I mean, I didn't make any apologies. I felt like I hadn't done anything. So, but these articles obviously placed me at the siege.
Yes.
Which I was not at. So, and of course I don't advocate for violence.
Of course not.
At all, in any walk of life.
And just to be clear, you committed no violence while in Washington.
Of course not. I mean, I was there for a peaceful rally. And that's all it was to me.
Yes.
And but there was no fact checking or anything like that. These 130 articles went out in the course of 24 hours, and just the backlash was just so they succumbed to cancel culture. So basically, that's.
So what?
I mean, isn't this just like he makes fucking like hipster music? So anyone who listens to his music is like expressly against Trump. So it's like. Yeah, what did you expect, dude?
After reassuring you they weren't going to drop you, what happened then?
Well, then 24 hours later, they wrote back saying that
I know I saw something about this, that like now every Trump supporter has to pretend they like Ariel Pink.
Texted me, telling me that they were going to go public and drop me at that point.
So if you're a recording artist, which you are, and you can't record, what does that mean?
It means you're
silenced. I can't tour either at this point, so it pretty much leaves me destitute and on the street. So,
I'm sure that's what that means.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sort of overwhelmed right now, and I don't know exactly what to do. But
so, for going to a political rally, not participating in violence, not seeing any violence, not even being aware there was violence when you went to bed in your hotel, for that, your career disappeared in one day.
Yeah, that's
your livelihood gone.
Yeah, that's and no.
This feels like it's fake. Like it can't be real.
No apologies, no support. I mean, my family's been getting death threats. They don't even know that I'm here. I had to sneak away because they were so terrified of me coming on TV. They've been getting it all week. Me too. I mean, the hate is just overwhelming, and there's new articles being written. Just people are so mean.
Articles. What is the actual substantive evidence of people? It's like articles.
You've lived
articles that call
in
me
this
a Trump
country
supporter.
all your life. Do you recognize it?
Not at all.
Just the best fucking alley-oop question.
Not at all. I mean, I'm terrified.
Here's the direction we're going with this conversation.
And this is what I voted against.
Ariel.
Right.
I mean, I didn't vote so much for Trump as against cancel culture and this environment that's been blazing for about 4 years, but is about to ramp up and get even worse.
So I'm just so struck by the fact that you are not a political person.
All right, we don't have to watch this. That's very funny. Yeah, it's this thing, right? The like, we're dropping your column. I have been silenced. Washington Post. I have been silenced. Hear what this is new book. I have been silenced. I have been silenced. Yeah. Conservatives love saying that they're silenced on national TV. That's the fundamental. Which is like a thing that like Hitler literally did, by the way. I know that the analogy is like, let's see. This thing. Anyways, actually, I want to look at this Bo video.
all
that's just
cops are bad cops.
Can't wait to see John Mouse on Hannity later.
Room Carl, thank you for the 5 months. Hold on. We can watch another one of these. This seems interesting. Follow Bo. That's cool. But yeah, it's a classic conservative thing. With the nachos grand box, you can toss the rules and enjoy your meal. These nachos are just for you. Thank you. Hannah Jones, thank you for 100 bits. New sponsor.
Well,
the CIA and this very, very delicious box of nachos are teaming up.
Hey there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So today we're going to talk about what is likely to occur over the next week, what is probably already happening behind the scenes, and kind of what we can expect. We're going to do this because the bulletin went out saying they expect events in all 50 states. The media is covering that the way the media typically does, which is whatever way is best for ratings. However, that's not always the best way to get information across. Okay, so to kind of get what is likely to happen, we have to understand what went wrong at the Capitol. I think that most people in the United States would admit that there was a marked difference between the way the people at the Capitol recently were treated and the way people this summer were treated. And I would suggest that a whole lot of them would say, well, it's because of institutional memory, it's because of institutional racism, and they're right. But it goes further than that. It goes further
all
than that.
Cops are bad
that
cops.
institutional memory goes to a higher level.
Once again. Now how will
Every
people see
group
my awful sub
in the
messages?
United States that is like
Brumpo
this gets an
Tungus.
assessment.
Thank you for the 5
They
months.
have an assessment done. One of the key things that assessment tries to determine is intent. We've talked about it before. And one of the main things that they try to quantify is the amount of initiative they have, how likely they are to do something. Historically, black groups get overestimated. They get labeled as having a much higher level of initiative, that they are much more likely to do something than
Wait, Jimmy Dore went on Tucker Carlson? Fuck you. I'm not gonna watch it because oh no, it's just incredible. Why is anyone giving a shit about this asshole? Why did anyone ever bother?
White groups, white right-wing groups made up of even a decent percentage of vets and ex-law enforcement are historically underestimated a lot. And this has been a long-going trend. The reason this occurs is because the people doing the assessments have a bias. They can identify with the people they are doing assessments on. There's the idea that, well, that guy was in the infantry. He wouldn't do anything like that. He was in my old unit. No way that would occur. We don't need to worry about him. There are people in Oklahoma City who would disagree with that logic. And that's how long this has been going on. Longer, really. This is a real problem. Those groups are always underestimated. And it has really bad outcomes. A lot. The funny, not funny part about it is that if you look at the way we do assessments overseas, the very people that the domestic assessments tend to overlook are the highest priorities. I've never done a video on it, I don't think anyway, but I've definitely mentioned it in passing, how those who are disaffected but trained are the highest priority overseas. In fact, I remember a video in which I was acting like I was going through files, and I was like, well, this guy did 6 years in the military and got in a little bit of trouble. This one's got to go. And that's how it works overseas. because those are the most likely to have high initiative, to act, because they were trained to act. In the U.S., domestically, for some reason, that always gets overlooked. That helps explain why they were so ill-prepared. At the same time, it does appear that there were some other contributing factors to them being unprepared at the Capitol. But even without that, rest assured, even if there were no contributing factors, they still wouldn't have been ready for it, because the assessments would have led them to believe that, well, they wouldn't really do anything like that. The good news is that the Capitol event already occurred. It happened. They're playing catch up. They know they messed up, and they're trying to get ahead of it now. They won't have the excuse of saying we didn't think it was going to happen. Even if there are some who are sympathetic, they will be overridden if they're following the playbook. And we know how well this administration follows the playbooks. But what is likely to occur if they do their jobs is the very first step would be to disrupt their communications. That's occurred. I don't know that the federal government had anything to do with that, but that's happened. The next thing would be to go to the little fish. Those who maybe went to the Capitol went inside, but didn't really do anything too wild. They would get a visit, but they wouldn't get picked up. They would get a visit that would go something along the lines of, hey, just to let you know, we'll probably be back in like a month. You're a low priority. Don't worry about it. You're only going to do like a year or so. Maybe a little bit more, depending on, how judges are. But in the meantime, what you could do if you wanted to get like a lesser sentence is keep us posted on what's going on, or even post what we tell you to. That would look really good in the eyes of the court. And in fact, if you did a really good job of it and we wound up arresting a whole bunch of really bad people, we know that you're not bad. But if we wound up arresting a whole bunch of the really bad people, we might be so busy we completely forget about you. Judging from the reactions that a lot of them had to minor inconveniences traveling home, a whole lot of people are going to take them up on this offer.
Yeah.
They're going to have a pretty good idea of who is who.
Yeah.
And they may even be able to assist in the planning of events that makes it easier for them to disrupt them. I'm fairly certain that that's actually already occurred.
Yeah.
We'll go into more detail about that after the events.
Cops are bad cops.
Hasso.
But
Jackals, thank
so
you, 3 months.
once they have
Posting to help the feds, Who can relate, folks?
that done and they start getting information, they're going to try to separate the two. Separate the type.
There's like some elements of it that are still lib, but I guess you should search through those. And I still think I think he has a specific experience and knowledge about a lot of this shit.
We're looking at. Is this a peaceful person, or is this somebody likely to do something? If they are peaceful, they'll leave them alone. And I mean, that sounds great from a civil liberties standpoint and everything. That's not why they're doing it. Do not assign positive motives to this behavior. The whole goal is to leave the peaceful people intact so they kind of rise within the movement, the organization. They gain more influence, and it shifts the motives of the group and makes them peaceful. That's the reason they're doing it. It's not that they care that people have a right to assemble or anything like that.
Just gonna say Liv did it. Oh fuck. Oh no.
Nothing to do with that. Those who they believe are likely to cause trouble, they will pick them up the day before or en route to the event. We actually saw that happen with this event in D.C.
Oh, really?
They do this so they can pick them up and they won't be out by the time the event occurs. They also try to get them while they're traveling because they're likely to have stuff that's incriminating on them at the time. All that being said,
I guess the Proud
what
Boys
the media
leader,
is
I
putting
guess.
out about there's going to be events in all 50 states. That may or may not be true.
Yeah.
The bulletin itself may be erring on the side of caution after what happened recently. Aside from that, I would point out that I don't think anybody believes that there is going to be simultaneous events like what happened at the Capitol
1 second, I'll be right back.
in all 50 states at the same time. That is incredibly unlikely. The level of communication and organization that would take is immense. It doesn't look like they have it. It does not look like that they have the capabilities to do that across 50 states in different locations and different time zones. And it's unrealistic to expect 50 events of that sort occurring at the same time.
Just for transparency, I've been informing on this chat. Joke's on you. I've been informing about how bad you are at informing on the chat.
That being
so, you're about to get a significant pay cut for how badly you've been informing on this chat.
Being said, just like before, just because they're not going to be successful in their goal doesn't mean they can't cause a bunch of chaos. If it was me and I lived in one of these cities, I would catch up on YouTube, binge watch a show on Netflix on these days. I wouldn't go out. There's no reason to get caught up in it. Because while it's unlikely they achieve their goals, they can be very disruptive. And there's no reason to get involved in that. And while they can cause chaos, I don't think that people should be expecting anything too wild.
To the mic so I can record this better. I'm sorry.
And I don't think that people should have anxiety about it.
Yeah.
They're playing catch up. Really, they aren't.
I guess there is also a certain element to this in which, American intelligence agencies aren't the most competent.
Great at this. Historically speaking, they're not.
Yeah.
But they
some of that, I guess you could say, is intended and based on sympathy, but a lot of it also just is based on.
They probably have a whole lot of resources available to them because of what just occurred. There's probably a whole lot of political pressure to make sure it doesn't happen again, and we have seen signs that they are taking it seriously.
A way too complex bureaucracies actually function. That's one of Parenti has a book, I believe, about his analysis of the Latin American drug trade and its relationship with United States intelligence agencies. And one of the issues I think of Parenti's analysis is he paints all of these different orgs as being a unified force that don't have potentially contradicting interests and positions in a complex sort of far more heterogeneous bureaucracy, which sort of makes some of his analysis at more surface level.
The bulletin, I think, was letting state agencies and local agencies know ahead of time that they need to be prepared, because just as federal agencies do assessments, local and state agencies, they do the same thing, and they are even worse when it comes to their accuracy. They always underestimate these groups.
That is also another good point about it's a little hard when you're investigating the Klan rally you attended the night before. Yeah, that's true.
So
you're my third most used streamer. Thank you.
Take the news
How
of the
can I
bulletin
check that? I want to see mine.
With the acknowledgement that it's probably being upplayed by the media for the sake of ratings.
Yeah,
while
that's
there
a
may
good
be
point.
50 events, I seriously doubt.
That's a very good point, actually. Some of it, you can say some of it's being upplayed, as I had said, where it's Patriot Act 2, Electric Boogaloo stuff. or gotta stop all the boogaloos. I guess I think Rob from Dumb and Awful said, which is it's a very good way of it's very funny, but also just because ratings, it's a spectacle. People click on it. It's more entertaining.
More than 5 are going to get like really wild. But you don't want to be caught up in one of those 5. So I wouldn't go plan a tour of downtown on, what is it, the 16th, 17th, 18th, 16th through the 20th, I guess is the period that they're saying stuff could happen in, which is basically from now until the inauguration. We will do, a whole lot of people have asked for a breakdown of what went wrong on the ground at the Capitol as far as security is concerned, and I will do a breakdown on it. I was waiting to get a little bit of more information. I kind of, after watching a lot of the footage, I kind of suspected that there might have been people who weren't doing their best, and perhaps had some sympathies with their opposition. Now that that's coming out, we can talk about it a little bit more, and I'll do that sometime in the next day or so. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.
Always, this is a good account. Here we go. This is my streaming recap, not of my watch, but of people watching me. What do you guys think? This is an interesting question. What do you guys think are the most used emotes? What would you guys guess? What would y'all? You say Liv Vod. Remember, this is all of 2020. This is all of 2020. We got the hard-ons, the bonk. Interesting. Lib. Hard-on easily. Yeah. Yeah. It's the lizard. It's the lizard. 266,000 hours watched, 20,000 followers, 1,000 hours streamed. The most used is the lizard, and then lolw, and then what is it? Which even is that? Then the Joker, then this, then that's laugh, posting laugh. Yeah, good for the lizard. There's some other stats. I don't want to open this because it's on an email. Top redeemer of channel points is Maya with 378,000. The posting hard on was used 17,000 times in my chat. 8 million total accumulated channel points. You can end the stream 8 times with literally all of the channel points. Hassan streamed an insane amount of time. He's live like 12 hours a day. It's ridiculous. I couldn't find my watch history though, but it's fine. Anyways, average 10 hours a day. That's insane. That is insane. How do you do that? Massive respect. Who do you watch the most? I couldn't find it. What is the email called that I should be looking for? Because that was the stream recap at the start of the year. Oh, 2020 recap. No? Oh, your top watch channel. It's Liv posting with 181 hours. Let me screen cap it. I don't actually watch that much streams. The reason why it's myself, of course, is because I keep it open on a certain tab or whatever. Let me open this. There you go. Hassan, 44 hours, and then Central Committee Mike, 14. I don't actually watch that much Twitch. I watched more last year, or 2019. You will gift a tier 3 sub to anyone who has more live hours watched than me. How many do you have, Maya? How many do you have? Let's see. Who's the... Maya, I think it is you who's the most. I think it is.
All cops are bad cops.
Crab Build. Thank you for the 2 months. You 701. Nice. Look, I don't get it. I mean, clearly I don't because I don't watch that many streams, but thank you. Much appreciated. We love to see it. I think that's the same with, that's with most streamers, right? We don't really watch that much. How do you check? There's an email. Thank you to everyone who has watched a shit ton of my stream last year. Very much so appreciated that I'm able to do this essentially full time. 37 years of live streams watched total all time combined. That is crazy. Relith Co has 402, but found me in May. Okay. So that had the potential.
All
yeah,
cops
thank you, everybody.
are bad cops.
You can't watch my streams because it's too late. Oh yeah, I'm sorry to every European watcher. Pilford Brimley, thank you for the 4 months. I want to watch more Bo stuff because I think this is super interesting. Do VODs count? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's cool. I think it was Spotify that started that, right? With like the listening breakdown, and now like everyone's doing it. I mean, so 37 years of time watched. I guess when Lennon said the decades happen in weeks, that's what he meant. May's got 541. Nice. That's actually, I can look at, isn't the statistic public? I have it on my like channel thing. Let me see this. Oh, I guess no, there's oh, it still says, oh, I should change that. I guess it doesn't say, it says chatting, gifts, bits. Okay. And channel points. Never mind. Anyways, let's continue with this.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So today we're going to talk about context, the surrounding details.
The stream's been a massive lifeline. I'm glad. I hope this helped everyone or anyone who is like had nothing to do because of quarantine, etc.
We're going to do this because in the United States we have a habit of ignoring the details when it comes to international and national events and politics.
Just kidding.
We do this because
strong like bull. Thank you for the 5 months.
We like to reinforce our own beliefs. And it's a whole lot easier to spin something if you don't look at the details.
Technically, the NSA started it with mass surveillance.
But that's not the right way to do things because we use context all day, every day in our normal lives, and that's actually how we determine moral and societal value. Since the teacher asked me to talk about this, we'll start off with an example that's relevant to that group. The action, the event, is a student looking at their neighbor's desk. The context, the surrounding details, determine whether or not that's good or bad. If the student is looking at their neighbor's desk to get the page number so they can follow along in the book, well, that's a good thing. If they're doing it in the middle of a test, well,
we won't do another hype train because we just did one, but there is a hype train.
That's
if you like
probably not a good thing.
2017
if I was to take this and smash through your wall in the middle of the night, drag you out of bed unconscious, and throw you into the back of a vehicle, it seems like it would be a bad thing, right? And it would be, unless I had just gotten off a fire truck and I was putting you in an ambulance. That would be a good thing.
So says a lot about our society.
Is what determines moral value, societal value, the surrounding details. If you remove those, you can't make an informed judgment.
That's true.
What's being compared right now are the
Hammered
events
Haxton. Thank you, it's your
of Capitol Hill recently and the events of this summer. People are doing it because the actions look the same. They appear similar. But what about context?
I see the point.
What about the details? Are they really the same? So, this summer, what was it about? Why was it occurring? Systemic racism, a whole bunch of unjust violence being visited upon people that may really not have deserved it, and an encroaching authoritarian state. There were other reasons, but those were the uniting ones.
All cops are bad cops.
Was hoping to be
What
the
about Capitol
420th
Hill?
sub, but came up short.
Sad.
It was in furtherance
Slapboxing with God. Thank you for the
of an
2 months.
authoritarian state. It was about undermining the people's voice, because some people didn't like the outcome and they had been misled by people in power. Those don't seem the same to me. They may to you, if you're one of those people who believes that violence is always wrong, no matter what, then yeah, to you, morally, they're the same. Most people aren't like that, though. You cannot draw equivalencies based solely on the action. I would imagine, as high school students, that your textbook probably mentions the civil rights movement. I would hope so, anyway. Probably focuses on the 1960s and Martin Luther King. I Have a Dream and all that. Very peaceful, right? Charismatic Southern preacher, gave some speeches, and everybody held hands and kumbaya and all that. What's the reality? There were hundreds of riots. Hundreds. What's the context? A whole bunch of people who were
I think
disenfranchised.
This is mainly for lib stuff.
They didn't have a voice.
I wanted to hear more about his position on like the right-wing movement stuff. That's because, he's like a Kokona whisperer or whatever. It's about how like, it's, the classic Trump talking point now is like, well, everyone was fine when Black Lives Matter was, doing riots, but now we do one little riot and everyone says, and the response is like the context of the actions or, determine their moral value. Is there anything about any other stuff? Let's see.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So today we're going to talk about a very special
We will
message.
not be doing Bay Area. I will not be getting into the Dengist rabbit hole.
For you.
You know,
last
I
night,
am this
the Joint
type of a
Chiefs
joker
released
guy.
a statement, and the media covered it.
Kelly, thank
However,
you
I
for the tier 3 gift sub.
The media did a disservice because they went through and they pulled out the most interesting quotes, the quotes that were best for ratings, the more sensationalized quotes. The problem is this message was designed to do the exact opposite. It had two intended recipients. The first was the civilian leadership. We talked about it in the video where we talked about the idea that Trump was going to use the military to retain power because he had just moved a bunch of people around in positions at DOD. I was like, that's civilian leadership. Those people do not matter. They're political appointees. They're not even in the military. The people that matter are the people with stars on their shoulders, the Joint Chiefs, the people
Liv, you've done a lot to make QA less boomer. We love to see it, folks. I'm glad.
made this statement. That is
Can
one.
we put a Dengist video to poll, and then in brackets 1 with viable votes? You know what? If I can get bits from the poll of whether I should watch it, then let's do it. It's legally binding. If you want me to watch the Dengist,
intended recipient.
If enough of
There
you
is a
do it, if
message
there's
in
a
there for
majority,
them.
then fine, sure.
The other intended recipient is you. You, the average American. Two things you should know about the way professional soldiers
Yes,
speak.
or no, in
First
brackets, I'm
is
stupid.
that they are taught to convey calm in high-stress situations. That's why if you ever listen to radio transmissions, everything may be going wild around them, but those transmissions are pretty monotone. They're pretty flat. The reason they do this is because if you start speaking in an emotional manner, you start thinking in an emotional manner, and your judgment gets clouded, and that's when bad things happen. The other thing is that officers who have stars on their shoulder, the word will doesn't just mean will. It is a statement of fact from the future. This is going to occur, and it doesn't matter what you say about it. Think about any movies you may have seen. The general doesn't look at the major and say, hey, it would be really like super cool peachy keen if you went over there and took that airfield. Major, you will secure that airfield. It's an order. It is a statement. This is going to occur, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that it occurs. Do not interfere with that. If you do,
you're not buy yes votes, buy no votes in the dang
so
video.
at your own peril.
Oh yeah, and then there's a Minecraft server as well. You should join it. livecrafting.club.
The word will means a lot coming from them. Okay, so here's the message. The American people have trusted the armed forces of the United States to protect them and our Constitution for almost 250 years. As we have done throughout our history, the U.S. military will obey lawful orders from civilian leadership, support civil authorities to protect lives and property, ensure public safety. And
if you're in line to vote no on the Liv posting poll about watching a dang video, stay in line.
Accordance with the law and remain.
No, this is lip stuff. It's fine. It's not what I wanted, but it's fine. He's still good. You don't see a poll. I think /poll for mobile viewers. I think that's how you view it. What else did I have prepared? I guess we'll finish. We'll see if the poll finishes, and then if it finishes on yes, then I'll have to watch American Explains How the Chinese Government Works. We're voting on whether I watch this or not. Hello, Pearl. How's it going? Buy no votes. Please do not force me to go down this rabbit hole. Oh, you love to see it, folks. No, I'm stupid wins. Please don't fire us. Thank you for contributing 3,200 bits. We do not have to watch America Explains the Chinese Government Works. Thank you so much. Stop the steal. If you're in line to vote for the dang video, stay in line. Thank you. Thank you. Please don't fire us for the 1,300 bits. What's therapy? Thank you for the 100 bits. We love to. That's how I got convinced to do it. Was the allowing to buy votes or whatever. Look, we live in a bourgeois democracy where if you have money, you can buy more freedom. So it's only fair. No recount. We're not doing a recount. We're not doing it. You had your vote. You had your plebiscite. You had your democracy. And now it's, we've decided. Okay, what should we watch? Is there any more? I'm doing the rounds on lib videos. So we can do some legal. The election was bought. You love to see it, folks. You simply love to see it.
In the wake of
the Dominion Twitch polls, yeah.
A violent riot that ended in actually taking over the U.S. Capitol, leaving at least 5 dead, including 1 Capitol police officer. Cries for
dang, this video won by a lot, and it's not even
the
close.
president as expediently as possible are coming from both sides of the aisle. But this isn't an episode of The West Wing. This is actually real life. Can the 25th Amendment actually be invoked to remove...
Yeah, Hugo Chavez didn't want me to critique dangism with my incredible rational Socratic skills.
Remove President Trump from office. Is that a legal possibility? Hey, Legal Eagles,
we're libs now because that vote worked. I'm officially a lib. I believe in bourgeois liberal democracy.
Time to think like
Voting
a constitutional scholar, because we are through the looking glass, people. We are in uncharted territory. Because people are furious with President Trump, not just for potentially inciting the violent mob that eventually took over the Capitol, but also with his lack of a response after the fact, his inability to calm the crowd, and basically seeming like he was AWOL. People are suggesting that the president is now incapable of discharging his duties. So what do we do in that situation? Well, a lot of people have pointed to the 25th Amendment, which was created to have a backup plan in case the president was incapacitated or otherwise incapable of performing their duties. Now, the US Constitution's original plan for what happens in the event of a presidential disability or inability to work was simply for the vice president to take over, but that was pretty vague. It seems simple enough, but Article 2, Section 1, Clause 6 of the Constitution doesn't exactly explain how to decide when a president is considered disabled or unable to perform the duties of the office. So in 1967, Congress passed the 25th Amendment, which was intended to provide clarity in these really dire situations. And if you've ever seen The West Wing, you've probably seen a couple of these 25th Amendment scenarios play out. But this is real life. And the real 25th Amendment has several sections. The first is Section 3, which is a part of the 25th Amendment that has actually been invoked several times. Section 3 of the 25th Amendment provides that the president has the authority to declare him or herself unable to discharge the powers of the office. If the president makes this declaration, it officially transfers authority of the office to the vice president, who exercises
I never thought about that shit where it's like they use his or her as the universal. Like, why not just use they? Like, there's no
unable to discharge.
It's they in a plural.
The powers of the office. If the president makes this declaration, it officially transfers authority of the office to the vice president, who exercises it as acting president until the actual president reclaims their authority by declaring
him. I'm canceling the Constitution here.
Disability has ended. So why in the world would a president ever willingly give up power to the vice president? Well, it's generally in times of medical emergencies or sometimes even routine medical procedures. So, for example, this could apply if the president was having surgery and knew that he or she was going to go under the knife and was going to be incapacitated for that time. The key aspect of Section 3 is that the president has discretion over when it applies and when it ends. And this has happened before. Ronald Reagan sent a letter.
I know, but I guess it is his or herself is like one person.
Suggesting that he was invoking Section 3 of the 25th Amendment when he underwent surgery for Apollo. George H.W. Bush was acting president for about 8 hours while President Reagan was in surgery. And after that, President Reagan took back his power as the actual president. Similarly, when George W. Bush was president, he formally invoked Section 3 of the 25th Amendment twice when he was anesthetized for routine medical procedures.
Oh, this video is great.
Only because the government is letting you have property. If you have a right to free speech, it's only because the government allows you to speak freely. But all rights, in the end, only come from the collective. They only come from government. There are no pre-existing individual rights.
It's so good. It's so
in the state of nature or anything like that. Negative rights are rights.
Each time, the vice president, Dick Cheney, took over on both occasions, and then, when the president felt better, was declared fit for office and retook their power as the president of the United States, and, believe it or not, took the power away from Vice President Dick Cheney. But while this is an interesting history lesson, this is obviously not the scenario that people are talking about in January 2021. What people are talking about in the context of basically forcibly removing the president from power refers to Section 4 of the 25th Amendment. And Section 4 of the 25th Amendment is far more complicated and contested than Section 3. Following the siege of the Capitol, there have been lots of calls for invoking the 25th Amendment and removing President Trump from power, and installing Vice President Pence as the acting president. Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, has called for it. Chuck Schumer, the minority Senate leader, though soon to be majority leader. Former Chief of Staff John Kelly has called for President Trump's removal via the 25th Amendment, and even Mick Mulvaney, who just resigned his post and was the former director of OMB, former director of the CFPB, and the former White House Chief of Staff, has suggested that the 25th Amendment should be in play. And all of them are referring to Section 4 of the 25th Amendment. So there is a process for removing a president from power who is either unwilling or unable to transfer power themselves. It's actually never happened. The Section 4 of the 25th Amendment has never been invoked. And obviously, it's highly political. Now, what most people think about when they think of the 25th Amendment is a president who is suddenly taken ill, maybe was in a car crash and is put on a ventilator, or has...
Oh, wait. Let's look at this Rudy video.
That riot was set up by Antifa, by another group called Groyper, which is a right-wing group, but a right-wing group that has a gripe with Trump because he's pro-Israel. They happen to be a bunch of sick anti-Semites.
Yeah, they're the fringe right, crazy, radical ones that are no.
The group known as Groyper.
Along with MAGA country and Trump supporters.
Some of these guys have been arrested with stuff where they're threatening to kill the president because he supports Israel. It's that bad. And then a third group.
I mean, like, this is like 2016 Hillary Clinton understanding of the internet.
To go into emergency
the red-brown alliance of Antifa Groyper.
Surgery for, I don't know, a heart condition or any of the million things that could actually befall an actual human president. And if they are in an emergency, if they're under surgery, under general anesthetic, or in a coma, then the 25th Amendment could apply because the president wouldn't have the ability to make the determination for themselves that they have to transfer power. At the same time, the authors of the amendment also wanted to cover scenarios where the president thinks that he or she is totally fine, but that the vice president and a majority of the cabinet think that the president is not actually fine. Remember that America is a country that was created in part because the colonists didn't want to be ruled by King George III, who was said to be suffering from madness. So if a president is unwilling to declare him or herself incapacitated, then the cabinet and the vice president may act. In these circumstances, the section authorizes the vice president and a majority of either the cabinet or any other body established by law acting jointly to declare the president to be disabled. For all intents and purposes, we're talking about the vice president and the members of the president's cabinet, of which there are 15 members. Specifically, Section 4 of the 25th Amendment provides that, quote, whenever the vice president and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive departments or of such other body as Congress may by law provide, transmit to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the vice president shall immediately assume the powers and duties of the office as acting president.
Yes, now, we don't have to watch all this. So it seems
key phrase here is the president.
The 25th Amendment is ableist thread, and then it like points downward.
Is unable to discharge.
That's my favorite when people quote tweet me and they're just like thread. It's like just retweet the tweet. Like why?
The powers and duties of the office.
Or someone will quote tweet something and be like LOL exclamation point.
At the moment, President Trump is not in a coma. He's
you.
Not incapacitated, as most people would generally define that word. And this might be a little bit controversial, but I think most people would agree he's not suffering from something like dementia. So it could...
That honestly reads like a Trump tweet from 2013, by the way.
It would be an open question as to whether the president's indecision or inability to attempt to prevent the mob that took over the Capitol or to effectively run the country in the wake of this horrible tragedy, whether that qualifies as the sort of inability to discharge the powers and duties of the office that is contemplated.
Because Pence has to be a part of it, right?
by the 25th Amendment. Now, practically speaking, the 25th Amendment requires a majority of the cabinet officers agree with the vice president that the president is unable to fulfill their duties. There are 15 cabinet positions, as we've talked about, so the vice president would need a concurrence of at least 8 of the 15 cabinet members to activate a declaration of presidential disability. Now, let's put aside for the moment the fact that the Trump cabinet is currently full of acting cabinet members and has lost a lot of the Senate-confirmed cabinet members that I think the 25th Amendment originally contemplates, but we'll get back to that. But again, talking about the practicality of this for the moment, once a majority of the cabinet and the vice president notify the president pro tem and the speaker, the vice president immediately assumes the powers and duties of the office of acting president. But the drafters of the 25th Amendment were well aware that this
is even more lib than I thought, and I guess it's sort of not relevant. Because it doesn't matter because it won't be invoked. How is impeachment going? So they got him impeached, but they're moving it to the Senate now. So they impeached his ass twice, and now I don't know. Is it going through the Senate at the moment? So they need half of the Senate to agree with the impeachment thing to make sure that he can never run again, and they need 2/3 of it. The Senate isn't reconvening until the 19th. Oh, so it doesn't matter. They're reconvening next week. Okay. Oh, I guess it's right before he leaves, because it's what, the 21st? My full statement on the Senate schedule. House of Representatives vote to impeach the president. The Senate process will now begin at our first regular meeting. Government impeachment trial. There's simply no chance that a fair, serious trial could be concluded before Biden is sworn in next week. Senate has held 3 presidential impeachment trials. Even if the process were to begin this week and move promptly, no final verdict would be reached until after President Trump has left office. In light of this reality, I believe it will best serve our nation if Congress and the executive branch spend the next 7 days completely focused on facilitating a safe inauguration. But the charges can still be made even after he's left? It's post-presidency charge. Oh, okay. I guess that's not a surprise. Well, then there's literally no way that he's going to be able to run again, right? Isn't that a bad idea? Isn't that a bad call on their part? Because the Senate will be less Republican after Biden is sworn in. So they'll definitely get a majority, which is all they need to make sure he can't run again. And that's all that matters if it's a post-presidency charge, because they need 2/3 to remove him. Am I missing something? I guess McConnell wants that. That's true. He doesn't want to deal with Trump. Yeah, I guess there's no way to shut it down. McConnell just doesn't give a shit, wants to get rid of him. Simple majority to bar from future office. Okay. Oh, and then the Republicans will say, well, the Democrats controlled the Senate, so okay. All right, so both parties win because they don't have to deal with Trump, basically. Very ironically, at the last moment, when he becomes, not useful for McConnell, removing Trump becomes, a bipartisan thing, I guess. To an extent, I mean, it'll be interesting to see which Republicans in the Senate vote alongside it. How many Republicans in the House voted for impeachment? Oh, they're going to try to sideline checks. Oh, I see. It was 10? Okay. No, but McConnell is very politically savvy. This era will not be known as the Trump era. All that is spectacle. The most important shit is done through McConnell. McConnell essentially saved and then reinvigorated the Republican Party after they ate shit so badly in 2008. Oh, this is good. This is a great tweet.
This is like the final straw in the postmodern transition of
true.
Dadaist performance art from surreal to outright simulacra. I mean, the white boy dancing, the coup on television, it's all there. It's fucking perfect.
The white boy dancing, the coup on television. Go off. So true. So fucking true. Yeah, it's very funny. We can watch a bit more Majority Report.
We got two things to talk about with Mike Pompeo. One is you've heard a lot of decrying the idea of how Parler lost its service with Amazon servers, and they'll be back up in about 5 or 6 days when they work out their coding. And so they can be on the servers of.
I'll drop this again. I just had a podcast episode I made. It's about the Capitol Hill protest stuff. And there's a premium follow-up for $2 a month. Did I spell Patreon right? It's on Liv Vod, SoundCloud, Patreon, all the different podcasts.
Some other outfit.
$2 a month.
And you've heard a lot about the First Amendment issues and the fact that Donald Trump can't be on Twitter and whatnot.
God damn it, Nightbot.
What you haven't heard is
this one's okay,
that a Republican appointee, Trump appointee at the Voice of America,
I am this type of
punished a reporter for asking questions.
Thank you for the gift sub. And also, if you give me money on Patreon, I get more of it. Patreon takes like less of a cut. I'm allowed to say, actually, they take 10%. I'm on the 10% thing. That's like public info. So it's much better. And then also I changed it. So if you have the, the 20, it's $2 a month, but if you give me $20 a month, I'll say your name in the podcast episode.
Questions of Mike Pompeo.
Soy face.
About Pompeo's role in basically delegitimizing the election and promoting an grievance that
you don't have
ultimately
to do it, by the way. I'm not like struggling.
Led to the death of 5 people in a Capitol insurrection. Here is Mike Pompeo ignoring this Voice of America reporter's question.
Sorry, what are you doing to repair U.S. reputation?
That's probably. Although, I think
around the world. Mr. Secretary, do you regret? Mr. Secretary, do you regret there will be a? Mr. Secretary, do you regret saying there will be a second Trump administration?
Those questions that Patsy Widakusura, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name correctly,
I don't think so.
asked, ended up getting her reassigned and punished for questioning Mike Pompeo.
Please
now,
sub responsibly, yes.
I'm sure if you go on to the Twitter accounts, you hear the commentary from those people who are decrying the assault on the First Amendment that Donald Trump's banning from Twitter got.
Oh, yeah, they don't give a shit about
the
that.
U.S. government's not doing it. Voice of America is the U.S. government. They are funded by the U.S. government.
Oh, sir, I want to read this. This is the founder of Pirate Bay making fun of Parler. Pirate Bay, the most censored website in the world, started by kids, run by people with problems with alcohol, drugs, money, still is up after almost 2 decades. Parler and Gab have all the money around, but no skills or mindset. Embarrassing. That's a good point. The most ironic thing is the Pirate Bay's enemies include not just the U.S. government, but also many European and the Russian one, compared to Gab Parler, which is supported by the current president of the U.S. and probably liked by the Russian one too. That's a good point. Yeah, nevertheless, Pirate Bay persisted. And yet, the reason why Parler got shut down fundamentally is just because they're grifters and they don't give a fuck and they're too stupid to actually, it's cynical. They don't actually, the people who run Pirate Bay care about it, right? There's some sort of affiliation of this stuff should be public. Whereas Parler was like, no, we just have this because, we get money off these stupid conservatives. Who cares? And so their system was awful. And that's what... But that is a very good point.
This is literally a an extreme case of a violation of like freedom of the press by the U.S. government.
Is that in the Constitution?
It is. My understanding is it's not. You're allowed to ask Mike Pompeo questions. Here, though, when we're talking about Mike Pompeo, here is something that made
Parler wasn't an op. I don't think so. I think it became a honeypot in how incompetent it was, but I have no indication that the people who ran Parler had any connection with intelligence agencies or etc.
Maybe even more relevant, or at least hopefully not. The new head of the CIA, Bill Burns, actually operated the backdoor channel to that basically led to the Iran nuclear deal. There was a backdoor channel out of the limelight so that the Obama administration could do this without...
well, he's a career diplomat, which was a
Shocking.
shockingly decent pick by Biden for...
I would know. Yeah, that's... yeah. Yeah, no, Parler's not an op. I don't remember meeting any of them at the group orientation later.
The head of the CIA,
I don't
although
remember
I'm
seeing
sure
them.
he'll
I don't
be
think it's an op.
engulfed in their
Who knows?
horrific bureaucracy at some point.
But the idea is, I think it's at least a signal that Biden is trying to, or at least contemplating, rapprochement with the Iranians. And Mike Pompeo wants to do everything in his power to make sure that doesn't happen. And I would imagine also shoring up his bona fides for a 2024 election, because he thinks he's going to run for president.
Yeah, crushing, starving, denying the Iranians medicine and food. Good for his chances in 2024 for sure.
Here is a Mike Pompeo saying that Iran, you'll recall, Shiite,
all cops are
Muslims.
bad cops.
Oh,
Joe
my
Biden
favorite.
is nuts.
So true. Who invented it? Thank you for the 11 months. My favorite is when those neocon sort of warhawks forget the fundamental split between Sunni and Shia is it's literally centuries deep, sort of begins in the early years of Islam as a religion and who follows who the caliphs are after Muhammad dies. But see it as just I guess a minor disagreement or a regional it's what was the Ben Shapiro book? I think it was the Ben Shapiro book had it so that the Shia were the secret I guess forget is the wrong way of putting it because they didn't know it in the first place. It viewed the Shia as the trained super soldiers, whereas the Sunni were the regular rank and file.
Has been harboring
the Muslim societies brought out the Shia, and it's oh, the gloves are off.
Al Qaeda members, Sunni Muslims,
which this goes back to of course Said Orientalism, the idea of viewing Islamic societies as a homogenous sort of group.
Sounds very
there's no contradictions or disagreements within them. They all have the same ideas and the same sentiments, and they want to attack the West.
Familiar to me, Sam.
Well, if it worked once, why not try it again? Here's Mike Pompeo.
I want to start with a quick story in these remarks today. Many of you here may recognize the name Abu Muhammad al-Masri, also known as Abdullah Ahmed Abdullah. He was Al-Qaeda's worldwide
Did he just say Al-Qaeda is Sunni? Yes.
number 2.
He did.
And on the FBI's most wanted list for slaughtering members of our State Department family in the Kenya and Tanzania bombings of 1998. More than 200 people, including 12 Americans, lost their lives in those attacks. The New York Times reported...
Oh, this is a great top story. Iran is an adversary, not an ally of Al-Qaeda. I'm glad that that's the top story when you Google Al-Qaeda
in November
right now.
that al-Masri was shot to death on the streets of Tehran. Today, I can confirm for the first time his death on August 7th of last year. The Times wrote, quote, that he had been living in Iran was surprising, given that Iran and al-Qaeda are bitter enemies, end of quote. It could not be more wrong. It wasn't surprising at all.
Folks,
and more importantly,
Muslim societies are homogenous.
They're not enemies.
A homogenous threat.
Al-Masri's presence inside Iran points to the reason that we're here today. It's what I want to talk about in these remarks. Al-Qaeda has a new home
so badly.
base. It is the Islamic Republic of Iran. As a result, bin Laden's wicked creation is poised to gain strength.
That's the thing that's hilarious about this shit. Because I don't know, I'm sure this is cynical. It's like, he can't be that fucking stupid, right?
And capabilities. We ignore this.
Like, if this is the level of knowledge or understanding you have of the region, like
Iran, Al-Qaeda nexus at our own peril. We need to acknowledge it. We must confront it. Indeed, we must defeat it. Now, I know this news will come as a surprise to many Americans. We had Al-Qaeda on the ropes after 9/11, thanks to sustained efforts of our brave soldiers,
damn, that's crazy. They're back? What the fuck?
Diplomats, NATO allies, many others who worked tirelessly to defend freedom. There are far fewer Al-Qaeda operatives in Afghanistan today than there have been in decades. That remains true. This is an enormous tribute to American resolve, American ingenuity, American leadership, and frankly, raw American military strength.
They're so fucking lazy. Like, they're just like, which boogeyman are we gonna use as an excuse to do imperialism and crack down on civil liberties? The same ones we've been doing for the last 20 years.
That effort drove Al-Qaeda to search for a safer haven, and they found one. The Islamic Republic of Iran was the perfect choice.
The perfect choice.
Al-Qaeda has in fact carried on a relationship to Iran for nearly 3 decades, as the 9/11 Commission clearly established.
How come I'm not on this
In the early 90s, Al-Qaeda operatives traveled to Iran in the Bekaa Valley of Lebanon.
You don't need to read theory to be a leftist. Let's see, what are the... It's... I don't know who that is. Hassan, Contra, Philosophy Tube, Richard Wolf, and then Vosh in brackets, kind of. And then Rev left. I mean, that's just hilarious. Also, the reading theory shit is itself a stupid discussion. Because theory doesn't actually mean anything. Like, substantive. There's a sort of... It's built upon, like, a set of family resemblances, essentially.
The heartland of Hezbollah for explosives training. In the period before 9/11, the Iranian regime told...
That's true. The Zoomer TikTok, like, leftists, which are even worse than Twitter. Zoomer, like, TikTok, it's so fucking bad. You thought Twitter was bad. I deleted that. I've deleted the TikTok app, and I have not downloaded it in the last, like, couple of months.
Border inspectors not to stamp Al-Qaeda members' passports when they entered or left Iran on their way to or from Afghanistan.
I guess, yeah, they never mentioned Chapo. Chapo is more millennial than it is Zoomer, actually, I think.
This was to help them avoid suspicion when they returned to their home countries.
Okay. Well, let's just start with this. You'll notice that the only evidence of this nexus that he asserts is that one Al-Qaeda member was killed in that country. Sounds like he was assassinated by, who knows,
Edward Bernstein.
What's
TikTok,
fascinating about
absolutely,
this is that
100%.
it's unclear, like, when they got this information about these assertions, because you would think that if
you're getting CIA info about my connection with Al-Qaeda, well, yeah, I'm CIA.
they had gotten
so,
these, they had this
it's inevitable
intelligence.
that there's a little bit of
I don't know, 6 months ago, a year ago, 18 months ago, 3 months ago, 3 years ago, that they would have given this speech then, not 4 days before he's leaving office and can't do anything about it. I mean, this is so flimsy and such garbage. It's fascinating. It's fascinating that, he should be happy about the insurrection only so that people can't scrutinize the absolute BS he's shoveling.
And thankfully, because this comes from the Trump orbit, the media has chosen now to be skeptical about these claims. But imagine the arrogance of somebody who's going to really just recycle the same bullshit that we heard that justified us to get into the Iraq war and just copy paste and apply it to Iran, which we get it. Bolton, Pompeo, and the like have been trying to get into a bloody conflict with for decades and decades. At this point, it seems like it's their life's work. Like, that is somebody who believes they're above consequences and above everything here. And this is the second time in the past few months that they've tried to drum up conflict with Iran. Do you remember when
there was a leftist tag on TikTok that said if you're proletariat or black, you don't need to read theory because theory is based on you. I think this helps highlight the idea of that theory is a legible concept that you either do or do not do is sort of weird and doesn't really make sense.
When the director of national intelligence came out, people...
Because what does it mean you don't need to read theory? Need to read theory to do what? To organize? What is theory? Is that sitting down with, Lenin's footnotes to Hegel?
People forget about this. Said that Iran...
It's always a very vague idea that has like sort of vague actual applications.
Was trying to influence our elections, provided no evidence about it whatsoever. That just happened. People forget about it because there's never a requirement.
And then it turns into the discourse that's like, oh, some people, aren't as educated and therefore can't engage with Hegel or whatever. So asking people to read theory doesn't make sense or is like, classist or whatever. But that firstly implies that, that if you don't have higher education, that you have no capacity to read the broad collections of what is theory, but then also that like which also doesn't make sense, but then also like it seems like the whole discussion
by the media
is
not never, but oftentimes they'll just reprint with what our intelligence agencies say and take it at face value. But there's been a million other instances about trying to drum up conflict with Iran. Like I have no faith in the claim that Iran tried to influence our elections. Zero.
I on the other hand, have no doubt that
would have been cool.
Iran and probably a dozen other countries, some fashion or another, are, and I guess how broadly you talk about influence, are trying to constantly get information and steer things towards a way that may be more sympathetic to them. I mean, we do this.
We do it to way greater effect.
And we do it significantly more because we have more resources.
Wait, is this real? Hold on. No way. I have to ask Meg about this. This is my pillow. QAnon promo code. -4. No fucking way. I do not believe it. It can't be. I have to ask.
In that regard. But this is what countries do. But that is fundamentally different, in my estimation, from the idea that you're going to gin up this Al Qaeda stuff. I mean, and I don't think it's going to work. I mean, it's like, he's just up there making a bunch of assertions. What they did do was they did put Cuba on the state-sponsored terrorism list, which, again, is just going to involve having to unwind that stuff with the Biden administration. I think what
again, the word, it's why you should never fucking use the word terrorism as a pejorative. You shouldn't reclaim that word because the function of the word terrorism just translates now to, non-state actors, which is ironic given that it's like state-sponsored, non-state actors that are attempting to like, fight you or break one's monopoly on violence in any way, even if breaking that monopoly on violence is providing its own violence.
Pompeo's trying to do is light a bunch of different diplomatic fires.
It's real? No fucking way, dude. No fucking way. No fucking way, man. Oh, I gotta tell fucking... That's crazy. That's no fucking way. Ah! You can't make this shit up. Wait, why did it...
Fires around the world, so that Biden to just really basically obstruct the Biden administration at the beginning from carrying out, any type of decent agenda. Fortunately, this is the value of the 50-50 Senate, is that like on day one, and we should also say that traditionally, you would have confirmation hearings already beginning right now in most administrations. Obviously, we're not getting that in this instance, but that's going to be the advantage of the 50-50 Senate.
And I think it's also just quickly even more ideological than just trying to screw with Biden and make him have to put out a bunch of fires. You get these neocons,
I'm still... When... You can literally fucking use the QAnon code. Is this like a... How is that real? When did people discover this? I talked about the My Pillow martial law thing. And what's it called? And how like Trump doesn't give a fuck. Or at least Haberman said that Trump like brushed him off. But that he's like trying to do fascism or whatever. So I'm just, the fact that I'm assuming not all of it's literally half off on fucking anything. Use QAnon promo code. This stream sponsored by My Pillow. Enter the Liv posting promo code QAnon. No, I'm kidding. Is there anything on this? Did people just fucking like they didn't officially announce it? The My Pillow guy is like fucking, he's like pilled. $50% off is a lot of fucking... I know he's definitely not Q. We know who Q is. How is that? I don't know why my signal isn't working. I'm trying to... The Liv posting promo code didn't work. Yes, I know, because my promo code is what's it called? It's QAnon. Anyways, yeah, try Liv Vega.
They start to believe in the idea of American exceptionalism. I mean, they already, of course, do, but he sees this as his legacy, as flexing American muscle against his enemies around the world. And that's how you get to a much deeper, more insidious obsession, because it's a religious obsession, and it allows them to justify atrocities like this and pretend it's in American interest.
Yeah, I just saw a James in Jersey. Hard to get excited about Al Qaeda when we lose more Americans to COVID on than 9/11 daily for weeks.
Yep.
Indeed, good point.
Okay. 45 works. That makes sense.
Let's play this clip from the Bad Faith podcast.
All right, let's do some Glenn Greenwald shit.
And
Glenn is, I don't know what the fuck happened to this.
I'm gonna concede. I haven't seen the whole podcast. They released this little clip, and it occurred to me, like, they're talking about him.
My favorite Bad Faith podcast moment was when they asked Zizek about Chomsky, and told them Chomsky's position, and he was like, I totally agree with him.
Impeachment. And here is
the argument they had with him like 4 months before.
Bree Joy Gray makes the point, which I think is a good point, that at least in part, I think a big part of the impeachment, the reason why it was so easy and the reason why they got 10 Republicans,
the Zizek Chomsky United
was
to
because a lot of these people are terrified and they're quite aware of the chances that there may have been essentially accomplices in their own Congress. And I think they were terrified. Remember, in the first day or two, Nancy Pelosi did not want impeachment.
No.
Did not.
And there were members of the caucus, like the Oregon representative, who were saying, "Oh, this is too divisive." Like,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It was just the result of the trauma of the members that experienced it and outside leftist pressure that was like, no, this was horrific and we cannot let this go.
Right. So just keep that in mind. That's a reality.
Cops are bad cops.
Well, 5 months. Time sure flies
Bree
by.
makes the point here
how's
that
it going? Thank you for the 5 months.
That they're part of the reason, at least, I think part of the reason, maybe she thinks it's the whole reason, is to also, she says, stigmatize the
Have I seen
Republican
the Bloc Québécois discourse? I haven't. What's the discourse around the Bloc
Party? And I would say, yes, you want to brand the Republican Party. I want the Republicans to pay a price for, well, frankly, I will want them to pay a price for everything I've witnessed over the past 25 years. But, well, 30, 40 years. But in this instance, in terms of what is politically viable, you want them to pay a price for their association with Donald Trump. You want them to pay and leverage it. If there's 10 Republicans who are going to vote against Donald Trump, that means that there is another cohort of Republicans who are going to pay a political price for voting with Donald Trump on the impeachment.
You drive a wedge.
So you drive a wedge, exactly.
Oh, signal is
and
out,
so
that's why.
she says this,
All cops
and then
are bad cops.
Greenwald, and again, this is a guy who I've had respect for in the past,
100%.
says something that is really akin to what, like, a Dave Rubin point would be. I read something somewhere that is...
Oh, classic use Francois Blanchet racism stuff.
Completely irrelevant to what the...
So the bloc is doing what the bloc does best, which is, having some heated gamer moments.
The Democratic elected officials do. However, it's indicative of
and then there's a discourse in Quebec of like, is the gamer moment really that bad?
Certain amount of grievance.
Is that basically it? It's Islamophobia stuff? Okay. I feel like if you've seen one of those, you've seen them all with the French.
That I'm going to say is I'm going to project onto these people. It's bizarre.
Part of the reaction, the desire to call it a coup, the desire to use words like insurrection, the desire to impeach Trump at this stage is because Democrats want to make sure this has a long-term political cost, not just a kind of like legal cost or to use this in a shock doctrining moment to expand surveillance state or what have you, but to say we want this to stick. We want to stigmatize Republicans with this for the long term.
That's correct.
First of all, I'm not entirely sure that the motive of all Democrats or most Democrats is what you said. I think that's probably the motive of some. I think part of the motive here is
yes. Okay. Now,
which, they would have to be smart to do that. That's a smart way of responding. Because, if this had happened to the Democrats in an equivalent, they would stop being a fucking party. The Republicans would the Republicans would capitalize on this shit, and like the Democrats wouldn't exist anymore.
That is, who knows? I don't think there's a monolithic. Now, I don't even know what they're talking about with Democrats. I mean, presumably, right? Like the people who are impeaching are the Democratic lawmakers. They're the ones who are actually impeaching. So maybe we're talking about Democratic lawmakers
I think so.
here.
I mean, I have zero problem with anything that was just said there.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I would say that should be pretty close to number one reason for instigating and close to exclusive reason. I mean, I think you want to obviously say, like, we want to discourage this type of behavior.
Right.
And anybody who in any way encourages it. We don't want future presidents to use the threat of physical force against lawmakers to influence our lawmaking or choosing of the president in this instance. Like, that shouldn't happen. But then after that, it should be, we're going to exact a political cost.
Sorry,
right.
But just to frame it correctly, we're not choosing a president to overthrow the results of an election where someone won handily.
Exactly. Okay. I understated it. You're right.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
But and then to say, like, but I don't know if that's monolithic. Yeah, okay. But what? Go back just a little bit. I couldn't believe that he went in this direction with this.
Democrats or most Democrats is what you said. I think that's probably the motive of some. I think part of the motive here is to humiliate, to kind of vindicate their view that they've been saying all along, that this is a totally illegitimate and tyrannical, despotic, threatening administration, the likes of which we've never seen before, on a different plane than the evil of George Bush and Dick Cheney, and to finally get what.
1 second.
I don't think anyone's.
Well, wait a second. He is saying.
Wait, I think that's true. Wait, I think I agree with Glenn here.
That the reason why they want to impeach is because the implication is that despite the fact.
I think I am actually on their side.
That I think, and maybe he disagrees, that Donald Trump.
Because the only Glenn take I saw was about how, like, that Trump getting banned was like the suspension of free speech.
Fomented enough anger.
I don't think so. Okay, maybe
that
it's
you
just
had
that part.
People go in and bludgeon a cop to death with a fire extinguisher in the process of trampling through and building gallows. It's as if that's not real, and that the Democrats somehow manipulated them to do that, and that reacting to that in a way which is, at least not controversial enough that you got 10 more Republicans to join on board. That is because it's all cosplay to pretend that Donald Trump is that bad. Now, I happen to think.
You're gonna do it. Oh, did I steal this? Were you the person that said Toberman that Hitler had Krupp when I said that Trump had? Yeah, that's the rule. One of the rules of the live posting chat is that if you say a joke in my chat, I'm allowed to tweet it out. Oh, you didn't? Oh, okay.
I mean, I think that could be interpreted as what
That's
he's saying.
One of the rules. Another rule is if you subscribe to me and I say something funny on here, you can tweet it out and I don't care. But you have to be subscribed. You have to be subscribed.
He explicitly says that that's the exact reasoning
well,
there.
No,
I mean,
he does, because for him to say that this is vindicating their claims.
No. The false premise that the straw man he's standing up there is the claim that he's claiming that Democrats are making the claim that he is way worse than Dick Cheney and George W. Bush. I don't think that's the strategic claim of the Democratic Party.
Oh, no.
So
no,
that's where I have the issue. That's such an online specific argument to things he's concerned about with his work, which is the national security state and the wars.
But before we even get to that,
right?
To say that they're doing this to vindicate their claim that he's tyrannical and despotic and whatnot is to imply that the actions he took are somehow less than, look, tyrannical, despotic.
Less bad than starting the Iraq War? Yeah. Is that a controversial position? I'm very confused by this. Is it a controversial position that the deaths of like millions of people is worse than the Capitol Hill protest or riot or whatever, or raid or coup? Is that a controversial fucking take? The deaths of like the subsequent deaths of like hundreds of thousands of Iraqi people
say about me little bit?
for fucking nothing, made up. A made up cause of war is in any way in the same fucking magnitude as what Trump did. Are you fucking kidding me?
Whatever,
But that's another
Red Scary thing
straw
on the
man
gift
issue
sub.
because
these are slightly, whatever.
Exaggerations.
But I don't know what you call a guy who is quite consciously sending his supporters to crash into the Capitol and violently threaten people who are ostensibly going to just validate the election results. I mean, I don't know.
I'm confused because it seemed like I can listen to this again, but it seemed like Glenn Greenwald literally said, this vindicates Lib's belief that Trump is particularly bad and not like as bad as all of the other fucking war criminal presidents. Isn't that his position? Am I like, where's the,
That's monolithic.
I don't understand.
Yeah, okay. But what? Go back just a little bit. I couldn't believe that he went in this direction with this.
Democrats, or most Democrats, is what you said. I think that's probably the motive of some. I think part of the motive here is to humiliate, to kind of vindicate their view that they've been saying all along, that this is a totally illegitimate and tyrannical, despotic, threatening administration, the likes of which we've never seen before.
The likes of which we've never seen. They want to vindicate the idea that Trump is is on a level that's bad. The likes of which we've never seen.
On a different plane than the evil of George Bush and Dick Cheney, and to finally get.
Yet, how is that
results? I mean, I don't know what
that
you
is, it's exactly what I thought it said.
Maybe the issue is you shouldn't call him despotic.
Glenn is correct here.
You should just call him rude, or you shouldn't call him tyrannical. You should just call him like, super aggressive.
That's the worst part of that to latch on to, because the like description of despotic or whatever isn't like empirical or isn't historical. Whereas I guess it's still a moralism, but at least the idea of saying liberals are going to try to make it look like Trump is worse, is an unprecedented threat, worse than fucking everything, and worse than George Bush.
Ever.
It's semantic argument.
The implication is that Democrats need to gin this up to justify themselves. Look, they don't need to gin this up to justify it. Like the idea that Nancy Pelosi is like, how are we going to justify all the things we said about Donald Trump? Joe Biden's president. They're moving on to the next thing.
Did I see the Never Socialism tier list? Yes, and it fucking didn't include me. Bullshit. That dude follows me too.
That's why they didn't want to impeach.
That's why
they
Biden
don't want to
publicly said that he doesn't want impeachment because he wants to focus.
That seems like, I guess, I don't know. That seems, and I'm sure that's like a part of fucking, I'm sure it's a part of it, but that seems like a bullshit, like that doesn't matter. And maybe that's also Glenn making that argument. It seems like it doesn't matter, the idea of like, it's clear that, and I don't know, there's a couple things. This response implies that the way that people's understanding of politics works in America, particularly within like a centrist or the acceptable political discourse, is simply based upon empirical evidence. Is not like filtered through like a sort of media apparatus that interprets events for people and lets them realize how politics actually works. As like, oh, I didn't realize the threat of Joe Biden, or the threat of China. I didn't realize how bad that was in comparison. How bad that was in comparison to like 10 years ago when the media apparatus didn't make a big point about it. As opposed,
focus on him.
So it could be the case that it is a big deal, but then regardless of that, the Democrats would still have to make a big deal out of it. Yeah, I think Glenn is also being hyperbolic.
his agenda, whatever.
Who talked
watered down
about
that might
Donald
be.
Trump as being uniquely horrible more than Joe Biden? And so, maybe there's some commentator somewhere who did. Now,
This is a reaction to the media hyperventilating about Donald Trump, which is Glenn's perception that
which is again to say that like most common conceptions within popular discourses in American politics, particularly within like the center, are necessarily ginned up by the media. Are a result of a sort of a semi-consensus, at least in the media apparatus that filters events through it. So of course that's gonna happen. That has to happen. But that doesn't, which I guess is disagreeing with both of them.
they went so hard about Donald Trump and that they don't do that about other Republicans and Democrats and other figures. And I am incredibly sympathetic to that position because it's my position. I agree that they went way too hard and like the uniting behind let's go after Trump. I think Trump's a unique evil in his own right. I think George W. Bush's administration was a unique evil in their own right. I get that resentment. I want them to hold the powerful accountable too, but that doesn't apply here.
Here's the thing. You hit the nail on the head because there may have been members of the media who did that. But guess what?
I don't know. I also haven't, they haven't fucking seen it either, the full episode.
They don't vote on impeachment.
Because Glenn has been particularly stupid recently. So I'm sure there's probably more to it. Maybe I'm crediting his argument to a larger extent than I should, just based on that clip.
Right.
But here, this whole thing of like conflating, on one hand, and we see right wingers do this all the time. Oh, well, yeah, okay, maybe Jim Jordan is up there, or maybe Ted Cruz is up there, or, telling people to get involved in armed insurrection. Dan Crenshaw is doing this, like literally making like action figure movies that are like, where he's like,
But Demi Lovato was rude.
Exactly.
Right.
But some celebrity, the woman who played Grace and Will and Grace was a real dick to me on Twitter. Like, wait, what?
Nah.
But continue, because that's exactly the argument he makes. He doesn't go and cite Nancy Pelosi saying, something. He cites somebody.
Another elite institution is somehow a blob that's
Oh, this is so good. This is a great. Mike Lindell will be our Professor Salazar, my new state. yeah, basically.
engulfed by these other elite institutions. It's just one big thing. Right.
Continue on with
That's very funny.
And tyrannical, despotic, threatening administration, the likes of which we've never seen before, on a different plane than the evil of George Bush and Dick Cheney, and to finally get what they've wanted for so long, impeaching him, removing him from office, even with 3 days left, is kind of like a satisfaction of that thirst for vengeance and to humiliate his movement. This is an article in The Atlantic, kind of the pinnacle.
Oh, okay. I guess the bad faith interpretation, which is probably closer, I'm realizing, I guess, to his position, is like
of liberals.
The idea that they're overreacting by doing that.
Smugness by.
Okay, yeah, because the way I was confused about that was like, of course they're ginning stuff up about it because that's how you create popular understandings and discourses in American politics. So it has that happening has actually no potential reference to whether it's a proportionate reaction to threats. But his implication is literally like that they're doing it because they're like punitive and they're taking advantage when they shouldn't be. When actually they should like not have given a shit at all.
Caitlin Flanagan. And this is in her first paragraph how she describes the people who went to this Capitol.
Yeah, I think Glenn just got way too fucking online. Like way too online. And he can't get out.
Event, she said, here they were, a coalition of the willing. Deadbeat dads, you porn enthusiasts, slow students, and MMA fans. They had.
Wait, sorry, what is this?
heard the rebel yell, packed up their Confederate flags and Trump banners, and GPS their way to Washington after a few
We're gonna have a coup of you porn enthusiasts.
wrong turns. They pulled into the swamp with bellies full of beer and sausage McMuffins, maybe a little high on Adderall, ready to
Yeah, and this is an Atlantic
done.
article, I know.
I think that a lot of what's going on is that these people know that they are scorned and looked down upon by the ruling class elite.
Oh, that's
especially
bullshit.
the one that's about to
come on.
really take over.
This is that I fucking hate this take where it's like actually the proletariat were the ones who showed up.
In a way,
look at how powerless they were. It's like no, they're the cops, dude.
That's almost unchallengeable. And the more you humiliate them and make them feel powerless, the more you take away from them their ability to organize and express that rage.
Oh no, that's
it's
stupid.
going to
Okay.
find an outlet in
All
more
right,
destructive
yeah.
ways. And
That's
that
stupid.
is, I think, something that I think is really worth
Yeah,
worrying
yeah.
about.
That's dumb.
So that's that exact conflation. I hadn't even seen that clip yet.
Yes.
All right,
No,
that one's
that is the
stupid, I will
conflation
say.
there.
The start of that sounded fine to me, and I think I disagree with their disagreements. But yes, and to be clear, I think that all of this discourse is unqualified because I haven't listened to the full episode of that, nor will I listen to the full episode of that.
On top of which,
But we should say though quickly that is a horrible.
That's
paragraph by
no,
that
it's
Atlantic
ridiculous.
writer.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I don't know who she is. I it's quite possible that
No, I like that article. Just because she called them you porn enthusiasts.
maybe she is the one who
The
dictates what
idea of like a serious journalist typing that is super funny.
Nancy Pelosi does.
And he's right to have that visceral reaction and say there is a liberal.
Yeah, again, I would say like the thing with Glenn here is that he's close. He has something at least, and then it's just no, he lost it. He lost it.
It's like right, but of course this is also sort of the same crap that like Maureen Dowd would write about, Al Gore or whatnot. I mean, like this is a style of writing that is, I think, sort of like divorced from what actual politics are. Again, it is a cultural. He is making a cultural complaint about people who, let's be clear, these are not necessarily working class people who have the time and the money to go and take this time to go and do this. I mean, they may not have.
To a certain extent, it is also like sort of doesn't matter the discussion of like, well, how many of them were like soil of the earth farmers in working class?
This writer from the
or not soil of the what's that phrase?
Atlantic, inappropriately take issue with people eating egg McMuffins or
Salt of
whatnot.
the earth.
But I mean,
That's
fact
soil.
of the matter is,
obnoxious. It's obnoxious.
Totally obnoxious. But completely divorced from the idea that impeaching Donald Trump is an attempt to seek vengeance against these ilk of people. Like
actually, the Glenn take is like these workers had really good reasons to not like the state, and they took it out on them, and now the wealthy Democrats are doing a top-down enforcement against this proletariat,
frankly,
and that's dumb.
Those people who went into the Capitol building.
That's not those people.
I would not say you should get revenge, but you should. Yes, these people should all be punished. And yes, some of them had Confederate flags. And yes, some of them were wasted. And yes, some of them, all of those things. But the bottom line is like to conflate all these things is really the functional equivalent of like some liberals were mean to me online. Therefore, I no longer support, single payer healthcare coverage. I mean, it's just a bizarre critique to substantiate the claim that the Democrats are impeaching Donald Trump to seek revenge and humiliate a narrow set of Trump voters, because recall that, and we've certainly criticized them, Democrats were certainly looking to get other Trump voters to vote for them, and were certainly looked to appease them in the course of the campaign, right? I mean, so the idea that they are looking for a specific set of Trump voters that they're going to punish by impeaching Donald Trump is bizarre to make that claim.
It's an
for someone
online
with
argument.
Glenn's clear intelligence.
So that's the thing is, I will, and maybe this bothers some people on the left, I will always respect Glenn for the most part. Based on the work he has done, I mean, not for the most part, I will respect Glenn because of the work.
Like the important work.
And the bravery that it took.
Yeah.
And I genuinely think he's really bright and brilliant and has
He needs to fucking log off. All this shit needs to stop.
the capacity for awesome
This posting shit has to stop, Glenn.
analysis and understanding, but this is a result of being too online.
Never
this is not connected to
Okay, I'll agree
politics.
with them
This
there.
is connected to online
Never
cultures
post.
that group media and liberal elites with liberal
Log off.
politicians in a way that doesn't make sense and doesn't fit into puzzle pieces. And it's a hatred of the elites.
Yeah, this is
in the American.
It's the super ironic thing. This is what happened to like Crystal Ball, and what I said I was worried is gonna happen to Bree, but I don't think it has, or at least maybe it happened to a little bit, but it's not nearly as bad. The Crystal Ball thing is to ally with the right, to talk about how much you hate the center and how much you hate the Democratic establishment, because of how personally, how they have personally wronged you. So it becomes this question of like your personal spite in relation to encounters with the center, where you're like, actually, I hate these people more than I hate the right. Glenn was the original poster. I guess that's true. I guess he sort of to ask Glenn to stop posting is like, ask a fish to stop swimming in water or whatever. But yeah, so that's the like. The anti-woke stuff, to the point in which it's like, actually the biggest threat is people who are being woke, and the Nazis aren't a big deal. That's the crystal ball thing that happened with her. Yeah. And I guess it happened with Glenn too.
Government and the elites in media, that's where the analysis begins, and then it's branched out from there. So,
who knows what drives it?
I'm not saying that's what drives him. I'm saying that that's what it appears to be. That's where the origins of this argument appear to be. And like, there are a lot of people on the left where that's how the analysis starts, as opposed to like, let's look at the individual actions of these lawmakers and then make decisions from there and make
it's not a political analysis.
It's not. It's a cultural online
weird
analysis.
Type of cultural aggrievement.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
It's the same thing Rod Dreher wrote. Where did I have that piece? Somewhere around here. I don't know. This is the same cultural aggrievement that I think.
Hate to see it, folks.
There are cohorts of people in this country who the elite have completely disempowered for hundreds of years, and who have immiserated and impoverished and whatnot. And the idea that Nancy Pelosi and her San Francisco values are out there to humiliate these, flyover state people. This stuff. I'm sorry.
You know what it is? It's good to call it cultural grievances because it does resort to like the level of aesthetic politics that's like present in like even Democrat versus Republican stuff. A la Matt Crispin analysis, all that stuff. Insofar as it's like what a worker is and what powerlessness means isn't what powerlessness actually looks like. Isn't how you actually identify people who are truly marginalized and powerless. It's like, well, these guys sort of look working class because, like, they have southern accents and they look like farmers. So I'm going to attach to them this idea of, like, well, they're the most oppressed, actually. When that's ridiculous. That doesn't make sense. That's not how you analyze that or understand that.
Sorry. This is like, go complain to Hollywood.
It's the weird projection of the working class as super white, when in reality it's like, it's hard to make these distinctions empirical, especially in the Marxist sense. You sort of take away a lot of the important elements of the analysis of the Marxist idea of working class, but like that a majority of the working class is not white, actually. And so if you have a crowd of working class people, the idea that they're like literally all fucking white is pretty unlikely, actually.
About it, right? You know, go complain to like, you know,
do a media critique. I mean, that's great. I love, you know, dunk on elite media types who can only focus on Trump and see nothing else, and then are obsessive about the Biden administration and laud them. I mean, like I think that's completely fair and legitimate, but it's not. You can't make those puzzle pieces fit when you just try to copy and paste and apply to the insurrection attempt.
And the funny is like they talk about ID politics. Like, you know, like that's all this is.
It is
it's just
enemy.
simply from the other side, right? I mean, it's just
Taylor
like the
much.
thing that is driving them is this sort of like this. It is projecting.
Yeah.
It's like twice over. It's like projecting onto this cultural humiliation. Is and look, I you know. Zero sum, right? I mean, like this is. I agree that there is a sense of loss that some particular white people have because they are no longer centered in our society, in our culture, in the way that they used to be.
Off,
and
like
their desire to not have to, you know, pick up the phone and hear press 1, you know, press 2 for English as opposed to 1, or the idea that, like, you know, I'm watching commercials, like I don't see any faces. Like, you know, the Cialis commercials are all black guys, and you know this, you know, like this newfangled stuff, you know, like I don't know if I've got to run into a trans person and not be sure what to, you know, what the word cis means. And, you know, like I think that is a real thing, but
yeah,
to simply say that, like,
it's
you know,
a little long, a little drawn out, yes.
to foster the legitimacy of this as a, as some type of like,
okay. Yeah, I guess anyways, it doesn't matter, whatever. It's all online stuff. I mean, this is online, I guess, so. I'm done today. I'm tired. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll be streaming tomorrow. Same time as usual. You should go listen to my podcast. It's called Liv Agar now. 100 Jones, thank you for the 100 bits. And then also premium episode on Patreon. I think it's the best podcast app I've made. The premium one on Patreon. $2 a month. $2 a month, folks. Very cheap. We love to see it. Podcast about Liv. It's so true. If you want more Liv posting, because join my Discord as well. It'll ping you when I go live. The best. We'll listen to you right away. We love to see it, folks. Thank you. I'm not going to consider that that's ironic. I'm going to assume you meant it. And go watch Lance at The Surfs. The Patreon link, it's Liv Agar, sorry, not Liv Posting. Liv Agar. I did that wrong. Anyways. Can I unban the guy that said you looked drunk? No, I banned that dude. Did I do that? Yeah, I did. I'm perfectly sober, by the way. I'm not. Anyways. Okay, goodbye. Free my man.